That's most definitely what's up.
Shout out to the chess club. We're aiming for a controversial 7 out of 10. But something's wrong with the game. But something's wrong with the game.
Assassins, Creed Valaha. Good morning, everyone. Hello. How are you? How are you? I'm here to rock and roll with you, each and every one of you. It's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be a good time. I'll be keeping an eye on the stream performance, because for some reason we're dropping frames, which is unfortunately a more recent occurrence. They're upgrading a bunch of internet infrastructure in my neighborhood and they keep screwing things up. With that being said, I also have like a pretty exciting package coming besides the package I already have. So I may need to bounce away because they're gonna make me sign for it, is my understanding. So if I randomly go and like quickly interrupt a segment or something, it's because I'm signing for the package, just so everybody's aware. Well, technically I'm expecting 2 packages. One I can show you, one I can't yet. And I know that's very vague, but tomorrow I can show you the other one, if I remember right. So it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. What Lego set? No, I've already got a backlog of Lego sets, dude. It's bad. It's bad. I gotta finish a lot. I gotta work through them. I gotta work through a lot. More candles. I have too many candles. You wanna see? Candles. So yeah, I got plenty of candles. I got plenty of candles, I'll tell you what. I will say there's only like 2 or 3 in each of those boxes for some reason. So they pack them very inefficiently, but still it's a lot of candles. I buy them in bulk during the summer when they are like $7 a piece. And then like, because they're all the fall scents, I only really like fall candles. So I get like all the fall candles I want, order them in the summer when they're cheap. And then I just keep them in the closet and break them out during the fall. Easy peasy. You think about it, just like you think ahead just a tad, you save like 80%. It's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, I do have a candle problem. It's a bit of an addiction. Some people have like gambling addictions or might be addicted to drugs or booze. For me, it's candles. It's my my cross to bear. Luke, imagine a dark, grounded pirate game with Nemesis system where pirates have stats and can come back to life with different types of curses like Pirates of the Caribbean. How dare you? That sounds fantastic. Damn it. And we both know we're never getting that, which is what makes it hurt all the more. It really hurts. It really hurts. Man, I don't know. I would love that. I would love that so much. Yeah. Oh, wait. So as you guys know, I'm going to Summer Game Fest later this week, right? And so all these companies are starting to like pump out stuff to like get people ready. And it's all hush hush, but the email I just got, the invite to a thing I just got is pretty damn cool. So we'll be precise with it. Yeah, Friday. Yeah, I think the show is officially Friday the 7th. And then they have a thing called Play Days where they let media try those games and meet with devs and stuff. So a lot of games that will be at the show I should also get the chance to try, which is why I've said, like, if you guys have any requests or specific games you'd like to see me cover in more detail, I can make a point of trying to go to those booths and meet with those devs. So yeah, let me know if there's anything like that you'd like to see. Summerfest vlog, Luke. Yeah, I actually have a dedicated camera, a dedicated wham. I got a dedicated camera just for this because they have a bunch of random requirements. Because, like, I replaced this camera, but prior, I used, like, these. And these were the studio cameras before I upgraded to this. And this is too big to be let into the venue. They straight up won't let me in if I am bringing these cameras. So I had to get a different one. And it's a small form factor, meets the requirements of what they have. But with that, whatever I'm allowed to film and vlog, I will. I won't know until we get there what we're allowed to film and what we're not allowed to film. So I'll be keeping a close eye on it, filming pretty much whatever I can. I want to see shadows, dog. Yeah, I imagine we'll see a lot of shadows. That's my guess. Yeah, Luke has too big a camera for Jeff. Classic Jeff. There's probably some joke there with him and Hideo Kojima or something. I don't know. Someone else put it together. Just get a GoPro and harness and film it in third person. Like, what if I did it like a video game? I put it on the back mount and everything. That could be funny. That could be funny. I like that. Jesus. Infinite Bikini. Okay, we can check that out. I mean, I totally wasn't gonna do that already. Totally not. It should be good though. It should be good. Oh yeah, the 360 camera that you hold in your mouth so you look like a bee. Yeah, you could do that. Capcom usually does Monster Hunter demos, so that might be there. Yeah, when I went to E3 2019, they had the Iceborne demo, and that was pretty Gucci. I remember I was there with my buddy Corey, and he like followed all of the Monster Hunter streamers and YouTubers and stuff. And so we're there doing the demo, and at one point randomly, he's just like, "Oh my God, that's blah, blah, blah." I don't remember his name. He's like the top Monster Hunter YouTuber. He does like all the guides and everything. He's like a huge deal. And he was playing like next to us. So it was funny watching Corey fangirl over that. With this though, it's gonna be weird because it's all media people. So like E3, it was like creators and then fans. And so sometimes, you know, there'd be some fun interactions where like, you know, you could run into Dr. Disrespect or whoever. Nowadays, doesn't really happen because it's like you're just interacting with other creators, you know? Louis Montorio, thank you for resubbing with Prime. 6 months. Oh, baby. Oh, baby, indeed. Do you think we'll see Outlaws? I would imagine so. Speaking of Jeff Keighley, our Lord Jeff Keighley, he posted this, which was like a sizzle reel trailer he made for the event. And he phrased this around getting in the mood.
I'm lost here.
Just this once, I'll give you something special. I'll grant unto you the sweetest of dreams.
Yeah, baby.
I don't really like fighting very much.
Oh, so hold on. This is the Arkham VR game, but is this what I think it is? Does anyone know what this is from? I don't want to say it and then spoil it. I don't want anybody to have like a skewed impression. Does anyone know what this is from? Okay, I thought so too. So does that mean DLC? Like, here's the thing. He said it's to get us in the mood, right? He's like, here, a look at what's next in video games will be at Summer Game Fest. Here's the trailer I edited to get us in the mood. Celebrating great games so far in 24 and the ones still to come. Thanks, London Grammar. I don't know if that's like the editor who cut this together. I'm not sure. But it could just be a collection of clips and trailers of games that have already come out or interesting announcements that happened. This doesn't necessarily mean that we'll see Astrobot at the event or whatever else, but one can speculate wildly, no doubt. Definitely breaking my heart, Jeff saying no Kingdom Hearts 4. He's trying to get out ahead of it and like keep expectations in check. Yeah, Arcane Season 2. There was an interview he did. Where's my Twitter bookmarks? Maybe not. Geoff Keighley. So he did like a little interview where he said, no Kingdom Hearts 4, no Wolf Among Us 2. Hype level is 8 out of 10 for this show for him, which means for the average person, it's probably 2 points beneath that just because he's got to hype it up. This is like where he makes his money each year, that and the Game Awards. So like he has a vested interest in making it sound more exciting than it might actually be. Has not decided what shoes to reveal yet. Okay. The show is largely focused on announced stuff. This is the big one. So we already know we're probably seeing Monster Hunter there. If not, that might have been outright confirmed. But anyway, Monster Hunter, Dragon Age Dreadwolf almost certainly will be there because that's still supposed to be out this year at some point. We probably see games like Black Myth Wukong. I think we get little peeks of something like Star Wars Outlaws or AC Shadows, maybe little bitty things here and there. But the difficulty for him is that he's got an Xbox show right after, and then there's a Ubisoft show right after. PlayStation just did their thing, where they announced, a stunning, brave, and beautiful game named known as Concord. But beyond that, like, there are other places for big announcements to happen, but he says it's specifically on announced stuff, not focused on games that are way off like 2026 or 2027, and no big one more thing. So he's getting out in front of it saying, do not expect us to do like the whole show and then be like, look, Bloodborne 2 or The Last of Us 3. They're not doing anything like that. So don't hold your breath. They probably finish the show on, I know some people are saying Death Stranding 2. Maybe they could get that, but I think that's the most likely of anything Jeff would reveal, so probably. But either way, it's really, they're trying to set expectations low, which I can appreciate. Again, if your expectations are low and they end up surprising you with some cool stuff, you're all the more excited for that stuff. Whereas if they hype you up, like, there's nowhere to go but down. Like, even if the announcements are amazing, it just meets your expectations, right? So I appreciate them being clear and trying to set expectations. I'm expecting most of the heavy hitting to come out of the Xbox showcase. I don't know that for a fact. I don't have any cool insider info. I'm just thinking there's so much stuff that Microsoft has on the stove right now. If anybody could come out swinging, it would be Xbox this year, because clearly Sony is not. Sony's kind of sitting this one out. Probably September they do another showcase, like an actual showcase where they reveal the PS5 Pro and maybe some other, a single standalone game or something. I'm not sure, but as for Jeff's show specifically, we probably get like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, a little look at that. We probably get Monster Hunter World. We get a bunch of little random stuff. Knowing it's Jeff Keighley, probably a bunch of mobile game ads. We probably see another Concord trailer and ad. We probably also see this Star Wars Hunters, which is going to be launching around that time. So yeah, I'm thinking we'll just see all of this stuff come out swinging. Excuse me. Sony just got a tumbleweed. Well, my hope is that Sony is just sitting back like, okay, yeah, do whatever you got. Throw everything you got out there. Sure, Indiana Jones, you think that scares us? Whatever. And then next year, they'll just come out swinging, because they should at that point have games like Ghost of Tsushima 2. They should have games ready to show, like the whatever Naughty Dog's game is. They should have stuff from like Sony Bend. They definitely will have the Horizon multiplayer game. They'll have all sorts of stuff. So my guess is that next year Sony's just going to come out swinging for the fences, which will be crazy because next year looks to be a pretty wild year. It looks like next year might be 2023 part 2, which is just 2025, but still. Yeah. I guess it would be 2024. Skip 24. But anyway, one of the other interesting things that happened over the weekend was an interview that Neil Druckmann did. Neil Druckmann. This, I know some people don't like Neil. That's totally fine. What I think you can acknowledge, though, is that Naughty Dog is one of the like preeminent developers in the industry. Like, if you're looking for a studio that pushes the boundary, it's Naughty Dog. You don't have to like the writing of their games. You don't have to like any of that. But technologically speaking, they come out swinging when they release anything. Apparently coming out swinging is my phrase of the day. That's all I can use as a reference. So what he said was, in an interview, Neil Druckmann has said that Naughty Dog will not remain the Last of Us studio forever. In the interview, Druckmann said that the studio is working on, quote, multiple single-player projects, and that, quote, I promise you, we will not be the Last of Us studio forever. We create experiences that are steeped in story and character, especially relationships. The stories have some sort of philosophical core that everything is going to revolve around and feed into. In an interview in early 2023, Druckmann implied that it might not be the case that the next game is going to be The Last of Us Part 3. He said, just because something is successful, people think there's all this pressure we have to make a sequel. That's not the case. For us, Uncharted was insanely successful. Uncharted 4 was one of our best-selling games, and we're able to put our final brushstroke on that story and say that we're done. We're moving on. On Part 3, he continued, our process is the same thing we did with Part 2, which is if we can come up with a compelling story that has this universal message and statement about love, just like the first and second game did, then we will tell that story. If we can't come up with something, we have a very strong ending with Part 2, and that will be the end. And he's already said that he had an idea pop into his mind for Part 3. But that interview at the end of Grounded 2, the documentary on the making of The Last of Us Part 2, that interview was reportedly, I believe they said early 2023. So if he just in early 2023 came up with the idea of what to do next in the story, that's definitely not what they're working on right now. Rumors from late 22 have already suggested that The Last of Us Part 3 is already in development with the success of the TV series. And of course, multiple single-player titles are in the works at Naughty Dog. It's hard to imagine Part 3 is not in development. But there's a difference between in development and being the next game. And I think that's what people are confusing. They could be working on it. That doesn't mean it's coming out in the next 5 years, right? Like, no, Todd Howard already said they started working on Fallout 5 because they had to take some story ideas from Fallout 5 and tell those to the showrunners of the Fallout TV show so they wouldn't have overlap in plot lines and stuff. Fallout 5 is probably a decade away. And they're already working on it. So like whenever I hear a studio's working on something in a leak or something, it's like, okay, that could mean that 3 people are talking ideas, right? It doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot. But with that said, Neil followed up, of course, he seems to really be stressing the idea that they are not just the Last of Us studio. That is not like their bread and butter. They don't want it to be their bread and butter forever. They want to try different things. And I really feel, again, I don't have any insider info, but I really feel like they are working on something original and different. Yeah, I could use a third game, but I'm okay if they move on. I mean, that's the thing. I honestly think there's a really compelling argument that The Last of Us Part 2 didn't really need to be made. I personally, again, if I was the almighty dictator of gaming, I personally would have preferred if they just left it where it was. I think that they left it on the cliffhangers. We could all fill in the gaps. This is a horrible world. It's probably likely that Ellie and or Joel died in vicious ways at the hands of raiders or infected or whatever else. But we don't need to see that. You know, that's where the difference lies for me. Just because we know that thematically it makes sense, I don't think that necessarily follows that we needed that to be made, right? Like, I don't think we really needed it. If they took the tech of The Last of Us Part 2 and made a new story with original characters, or say they just like completely rewrote it and it's not Ellie, it's not Joel, it's just some random characters you've never seen before, I don't think the story would have hit as hard, but I still think it would have been well received. Most people's problems come from the fact that Joel was involved with it, you know? So just because you can do something doesn't mean that you necessarily should. So if they wanted to leave The Last of Us Part 2 as the end, I'd be okay with it. Just like leaving Uncharted 4. If they want to leave Uncharted 4, totally cool with it. I still think they come out with like a spin-off game from another studio with their daughter as the playable adventurer. I don't know if that would find as much success. Maybe it would, but we probably see something like that. Abby did hit pretty hard. You're right, Leo. Speaking of coming out swinging, am I right? Am I right? So all of that to say, I think Neil, he keeps doing these things where like he'll throw out a little bitty hint, just a little seed, a little nibble here and there, just a little something, implying that their next project is something totally different, exciting, and groundbreaking. I'm hopeful that means they actually are going to try and push the boundary and do something totally different. In my heart, I would kill for a pirate game, but we just have no idea. We have no idea. Like, at least Santa Monica Studio, there's been rumors of like a sci-fi game because they were working on one before God of War 2018, and that, of course, got canceled. So there's been rumors of what they're working on. With Naughty Dog, though, there's no credible rumors as to what they're working on. It's totally locked down. Even with, like, Rockstar, there's been rumors of their next game after GTA 6 being some sort of medieval game, even rumors of it being a pirate game, because they've hired environmental artists who have put on like their LinkedIn pages specifically that they're making like medieval assets. They're making assets inspired by like Spanish colonial architecture or something like that. And everybody's like, why would you need that in GTA 6? Probably wouldn't. So he's probably doing pre-production for their next game, which has been rumored to have some sort of medieval tie-in, which could be really interesting. I mean, imagine a Rockstar level, like, I don't know if it would be a pirate game or just a medieval game. Damn, dude, I'd lose it. And speaking of stories that are kind of at a good spot, like Red Dead 2, I think is in a good spot. I don't think you need to go back and do more with Red Dead Redemption. The only thing that could be interesting is maybe a spin-off game with Sadie, but even that, I don't think you really need to do that. I think it ended in such a beautiful way, especially with the epilogue. So I'd be okay if they just left it there. But yeah, for Rockstar to come out swinging with a new IP, oh man. Can you imagine? Be crazy. So, with all of that said, I'm hopeful we see whatever Naughty Dog's working on sometime soon, because again, Naughty Dog pushes the boundary, and it feels like this whole generation, there's been almost no pushing of any boundary. It seems like everything we've gotten is just built to milk audiences for more money. It's been built to play it safe with remakes and remasters. The running meme is that the PS5 is just a remake machine. That's all it does, is it runs backwards compatible games better. So for them to come out with something more cutting edge would be exciting. And like I said, I think next year we get that. I think we get Ghost of Tsushima 2. I think we see whatever Guerrilla's been working on. We see a bunch of stuff like that could actually be much more compelling. So that's my hope. Do you mean just Sony games? I think in general, this console generation has been fairly underwhelming. We've gotten some games and releases that really push the boundary. Phantom Liberty is an example of something that was really, really impressive. But it feels like a lot of the biggest games are just cross-generational. Like they've not been built for this hardware. They've just been ported to it. And they might run a little bit better here and there, but they like nothing really feels to be a huge leap forward in terms of fidelity or scope and scale, even though that was the promise, was that this generation with the SSDs, with all the stuff they can do with ray tracing, that it was going to be really a big leap for the generation, and it just doesn't feel like that's happened, unfortunately. Even Phantom Liberty, yeah. Phantom Liberty was also scalable, and so it, I believe on console, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I believe that Phantom Liberty was PS5 and Xbox Series X exclusive and was not cross-gen. Because I think, wasn't it the 2.0 update was also exclusive to next gen? So I or maybe 2.1, whichever it was. Yeah, it was not cross. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. But it's still scalable. You can play it on like a Steam Deck or all that. Luke unconsciously dunking on Hellblade 2. Who? Yeah, well, the thing with Hellblade 2 is that it is functionally almost identical to the first game, if not inferior in some ways. It just is flashier and more pretty. And so it's like, okay, you made a step, like you stepped one step forward, but then you took 2 steps back, you know? When I want a game that makes big improvements generationally, like I want the game itself to be better, not like, well, we made this one aspect way better. Like you could take a game that was pretty good in the PS4 gen, and then if you make a sequel to it and it's like now it has instantaneous load screens thanks to the PS5, but everything else about it is worse than the first game or just as good. It's like, well, that doesn't feel like a big leap forward, you know? Like that's kind of underwhelming, you know? So I don't know, it's just, there's been a lot of that, and maybe it's just that, you know, this generation has just been slower moving also with COVID. That could be part of it. Baldur's Gate 3 is another example of a game that was really pushing the boundary. I don't know, technologically speaking, how limited that game was by hardware, because of course it's only on PS5 and Xbox Series consoles. I don't think it's on last gen. But I know of people that are playing Baldur's Gate 3 on old hardware too, on like old 5-10-year-old PCs and stuff. So it's not the most unheard of thing. Thank you for that.
Eduard donated $3.27.
Thank you.
Hey Luke, if Exodus is on Summer Games Fest, it would be awesome when you look at it.
I will keep an eye out for that. I don't know. Have they confirmed if that's going to be there? I see some people speculating. I'm not sure if it's been, I don't think it's been confirmed, but I'll keep an eye out for it. So anyway, thank you for the tip, by the way. Thank you. Appreciate you. So GTA Assassin's Creed crossover, baby. What's funny is that's not even going to be a thing. Or that's definitely going to be a thing. Luke, how can a game cost $2 billion? I mean, GTA 6 budget leak. I mean, it's pretty easy. If you go like Rockstar Studios or Games or whatever. I don't know how many employees they have, but it's somewhere above 2,000. So like 20, what are they now? Maybe 2,300, 2,500. I don't know. But if you go just with a basic calculator, and this is always tricky because there's added costs. They're mainly in like, they're in New York City. They have studios in the UK though. They have studios in Europe. Like they're kind of spread out. But if you take the average salary and you say, okay, adding in healthcare costs, adding in costs of incentives, bonuses, all of that stuff. If we just say that it's like $100,000 a year for each employee on average, and that includes the guys that are paid way more than 100 and the people that are paid less. But if we say that, and then it's like 2,500 employees, and then they say they work on this game for like 7 years, like all of a sudden we're at 1.75 billion. Because GTA 6 comes out next year. That'll be 7 years from their last game. Like all of a sudden you see how quickly it can get real expensive. Like really expensive. So this is precisely how, like, the math isn't magic. This doesn't even factor other things such as the overhead costs, the server infrastructure, the security infrastructure, the general IT costs, all of that stuff. Like, it is freakishly expensive. Yeah, and exactly, that doesn't even include marketing and licensing fees. This doesn't include lawyers. This doesn't include any of that stuff. And they're going to market the hell out of this. Probably another $1 billion in marketing for all we know, like probably more like 200 million or something. But still, games are stupid expensive to make. It was easier back in the day when you didn't need 2,500 people and when the average like median salary was like 50 grand for a year. And that was enough for people to live comfortably and to go into work and own a house and all that. Now, to be competitive and get the talent you need to make these games, you have to pay more. And all of the costs skyrocket. But like, this is what it takes to make a GTA 6 level game or a Red Dead 2 level game. Like, it is freakishly expensive. And it's only going to make more, it's only going to become more expensive as time goes by. So there's a 0% chance this game will be less than $100. As I've said a bunch of times, much to the chagrin of a lot of people, if anybody in the industry could get away with selling a game for $100 minimum, it would be Rockstar. Take-Two already did it once with NBA 2K, where they raised the price to 70 from 60, and that became an industry staple. And so I wouldn't be surprised at all if for GTA 6, they're like, yeah, this is a $2 billion game. Yeah, we're going to charge $100 for this. And guess what? You're going to pay it and you're going to like it. Like, if anybody can get away with it, it's them. Like, and they'll get away with it. Like, that's the thing. People will freak out. People will be like, this is ridiculous. They've crossed the line. Like, every big streamer you can think of is going to be making videos on how outrageous it is. And then 3 days later, they'll boot up the game and stream it and play it because it'll be the biggest thing out there. Like, that's just how it is. So, and then, like, I think it'll be funny because you'll see a bunch of other studios like a Ubisoft or an EA trying to do that, where they'll be like, well, we think our games are of a similar quality and budgetary scale, so we're also going to charge $100, and they're not going to get away with it. You know, they're not going to get away with it. But if anybody could, it would be Rockstar. And hopefully they don't. Hopefully they're feeling pro-consumer, and hopefully they just keep it chill. Fingers crossed. I don't give Rockstar or Take-Two much credit when it comes to being like pro-consumer. But maybe they will be. I don't know. Maybe this is the day that they are. Who knows? Or at the minimum, and I would bet a lot of money on this, the minimum I think they do is that they come out with like a $70 version, and then they offer like 7-day or 5-day early access, but only in the deluxe edition that's like $120 or $150. I think they do that, and that will also be the vast majority of copies sold because nobody's going to want to sit out. Like, nobody. Philippe, what's your opinion on the Elden Ring DLC price? I mean, it's obviously extremely steep. I think we all are aware that the quality is not really in question, right? Like, we all can kind of guess that the quality is going to be top notch, but whether that's fair or not is another thing. If you look back at like other games such as Blood and Wine, for The Witcher 3. That was, I think, $20, if I recall correctly. Was it 20 or 30? Can somebody check? I think it was 20, but it's been a while. It released in like May or something of 2016. And if we forward that forward, it's only gone up in value by like $5 or $6. So like it doesn't necessarily equate. People are like, well, inflation makes it worse. I don't know, even Blood and Wine, which added like 25 to even 40 hours of content. Back in 2016, CDPR did that for 20. Was it 30? Even if it's 30, then it goes up to 40. Like it's still, you know, then maybe you get there, but it's just, there is no doubt this is an expensive DLC and expansion, but the quality is what will decide it. Tuesday, June 4th, we're going to be seeing some previews of some people that have presumably, I'm assuming this means that people have already tried it and will be allowed to post videos about trying it. So June 4th, we should hear about that. And I'm guessing the reviews will be overwhelmingly positive. It's pretty rare for Hidetaka Miyazaki to swing and miss. And even if it was like kind of I still think that the overwhelming response will be, yeah, this preview wasn't great, but the game still looks amazing and we can't wait to play it June 21st. Like that's still going to be the narrative. So I think it's going to be good. From Software DLCs never miss. I don't think kind of do. There was that one for Dark Souls 3 that was really bad. I remember being really bummed by it. It was really sucky. And maybe that's just me. I don't know if this is like a common feeling. Which one was it? Ashes. The Ringed City was big and cool. I think it was Ashes. This is the one I was kind of peeved by. Because I remember it was really short. It had like only a couple bosses or maybe a few bosses. There was a ton of reskin stuff. It was really underwhelming. Like this one I thought was not great. Ring City, awesome. But this one I remember like, Yeah, Ashes was short, but 90% of it was fighting Sister F. Yeah, it just, and I guess people are also, 80% is getting Dark Souls 2 style, 10% is getting lost, 10% is actually good. If you hate yourself, play this DLC. Painted World of Ariandel has one cool boss and some good weapons. Everything else about this DLC sucks balls. Play it once to know WTF is going on in Ring City and then never touch it again. Yeah. It sucks. So I don't know. I personally found it a little underwhelming, but that was like the setup for the real big DLC that was the Ringed City that was really good. So this is, as far as I know, like the biggest and only DLC Elden Ring will be getting. So it's going to be like the big thing that has all of that packaged in. So I'm hopeful. Ringed City was the best DLC yet. I think the Old Hunters was probably their best for me. I thought that was very, very good. But that was just me, you know. Did From Software say Armored Core 6 won't be getting DLC? I don't know if they actually said that. I don't know. I wouldn't blame them if they wanted to kind of move on from it, because it's clear Elden Ring is the moneymaker. So might as well pump out more stuff with that. What's 2K going to reveal on the 6th? Have they said they're going to be revealing stuff on the 6th? 2K. Oh, the Borderlands movie. Bobby Lee's in it. I forgot Bobby Lee is in it. That's funny. Wow, they really don't post much. Wow. I don't know if they've confirmed it. Have they confirmed that they're doing stuff? There's a leak of 2K making a FIFA game. Oh god. Yeah, so most people agree that they're either releasing or they're either doing a BioShock reveal with BioShock 4 or they're going to do Mafia 4. I don't know which they do. They said it's from a beloved franchise. That could mean either one. It could mean Mafia. It could mean BioShock. What we do know is that they've been hinting at a Mafia reveal. Hangar 13, the guys that head up this studio, they've been kind of hinting, and there's been some leaks that they might be ready to reveal something. I don't know if that's the case for a fact, but I'm hopeful because I really love the Mafia games, and I would love to see them do another one. Yeah, Mafia, Lost Haven, Mafia, yeah, 2016 Mafia 3, Mafia 3 for Windows, Xbox One, PS4. DLC Faster Baby, more DLC, and then they revealed Definitive Edition, which was awesome. Mafia 2 Definitive Edition, which was okay. I remember it was pretty buggy when it launched, but they figured it out. Mafia 3 Definitive Edition fixed a bunch of the bugs from the original release, and then they did the Trilogy Pack, which had everything. So, but since then they've been quiet and presumably working on Mafia 4. So I'm really hopeful. I'm really, really hopeful because I would love to see more Mafia. Yeah. I'd love Mafia 4, not gonna lie. Well, especially if it's of the same quality as Mafia Definitive Edition. Mafia 3, I think, was a swing and a miss. It was kind of a reflection of the time. Also, 2016 was a weird time for open world games where like they were trying to decide if they wanted to go. And like, honestly, I think what happened is 2015, The Witcher 3 came out and set a standard that people liked open world games where every side content, every piece of side content had a story associated with it. So they wanted to explore a story that was grounded, or explore a world that was grounded in stories. But a game that releases in 2016 was mainly in development before that. It was probably greenlit in like 2013, 2014, and was developed during that period. But all the major decisions were made before The Witcher 3 came out. So in my view, I think part of the reason it felt so weird is because it was from that last kind of wave of open world design philosophy, and it hadn't really evolved beyond that, whereas people felt like The Witcher 3 evolved. And that's why like Assassin's Creed came out in 2017 with AC Origins, which was primarily built around the same principle that The Witcher 3 laid out, and that became the new meta. And so I think that hopefully enough time has passed now where they've been able to build whatever this next game is on the foundations of Definitive Edition, which they did in 2020, to really show what people like and just double down on that. Real quick, Gypsy Danger, thank you for the super chat. Did I miss Concord? Feels like a consequence of long dev cycles and chasing trends. When you launch, you're dated. Also, vignettes showing character relationships followed by gameplay of shooting each other feels weird. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It's like, it is just a little odd. They want you to just disconnect and turn your brain off. And I think it also reveals that they sort of know what players really want, which are like, they want the narrative game. If you have a good story and interesting characters, they want those characters explored in a game that tells those stories. They don't want to explore interesting character relationships in an Overwatch clone. Like, this isn't that like baffling a concept, but to me it shows that they know exactly what their fans would really want, and they're just not able to deliver it. So they're going to give them cutscenes, but that's about it. Even then, like, there's all sorts of little weird eccentricities with Concord that just don't really make any sense, like where it just feels so painfully generic all at the same time as trying to be like witty and quirky and stuff. And I just, yeah, I'm getting strong Lawbreakers vibes, except Lawbreakers was even more unique than this because they had the gravity mechanic and stuff like that. This, it's just, like, what does it do uniquely? I don't know. It's graphically a little better, but we all know this is going to get downgraded probably by the time it launches, because these games always do. And it's baffling that this game, they've probably spent, $100 million on it, and they're not going to make any of that back. But this is what leadership like Jim Ryan leads to. Like, it's just soulless games chasing trends. And like within a few days, I think before this reveal, I mentioned this earlier, or maybe even after that reveal, there was this. I'm gonna mute it because it's got Star Wars music. But there was this, and they announced Star Wars Rivals, or Star Wars Hunters rather, and just straight up, it's again an Overwatch clone with Star Wars characters. Like, but this is what happens when everybody's just chasing trends. Like, it's just more and more and more of this same crap. Except, isn't this one like a mobile game? For mobile? Haha, classic. And what's really depressing is that this mobile game will probably make just as much money as, like, you know, The Witcher 2 or another like really successful single player game from back in the day. Like, it'll just make stupid amounts of money. At least on mobile, this stuff is free to play. But Concord is not free to play. Concord, they're saying you can pre-order it. I don't think they've even announced pricing. Does anyone know if they've announced pricing for Concord? Nope. People hopefully know more than 40. And on the page, no price. That's worrying. If they're like, we would announce a price, but we're guessing the blowback's going to be pretty bad. So, but I think the fact that it's not free to play also shows that they know this thing's probably not got great chances. At least if they charge for it, they can get an initial wave. Like Suicide Squad probably made like 50 to 70 million dollars just in day one sales, and based on like player counts and stuff. So if that's the case, you know, they at least got something. They still didn't break even, but you know, tens of millions of dollars that you wouldn't have had otherwise is at least something. So there's that. Sony was hoping for 70. I mean, my impression of them pushing this like narrative side of things, my impression is that they were doing that because they want to charge 70, but they feel like they can't charge 70 for just like multiplayer stuff. So they're like, well, if it's a narrative game that just has gameplay based around, you know, 5v5 Overwatch stuff, problem solved. We get to charge 70 because we have a story, and we get all the perks of being basically just a live service shooter. Makes sense to me, right? There was that Crowby Cat, or Crowby Cat. I can't type today. On Lawbreakers. Because if you don't know, some of you guys might not know Lawbreakers when we reference it. This was Lawbreakers. Phenomenal video by Crowby Cat. Just look at this. Because this whole game, again, the whole trend, this was back when? Like 2017? So, yeah, as of September 14th, 2018, Lawbreakers was no longer available for purchase. So this game was supposed to be the next big thing. From Cliffy B. Destiny.
Overwatch.
All these games, a lot of them great, and then Lawbreakers. What was
I
Lawbreakers?
think we've kind of made the Dark Souls of competitive first-person shooters.
just didn't do the same archetypes that other shooter character-based games do, with the bow guy and then the gnome with, you know, the turret, or the classic medic with the noodle that heals people. We did our own things.
Okay, so Nemesis. To be fair, Cliffy was hella arrogant when he talked about this game that even the hardcore didn't care about at all. I remember Lawbreakers. It was just so uninviting and visually confusing that I never even understood what it was until it was gone. Yeah, I remember trying it and I thought it was like interesting, but it was one of those games that felt like you needed to main this game pretty hardcore in order to be even moderately competitive. Like, it was when Cliffy says he made the Dark Souls of live service shooters or first person shooters and stuff. Of course, that's kind of a cringe statement just because it's such an overused term when somebody's trying to equate themselves to Dark Souls and stuff. It's just like, bro, like, let's just not be your own thing. Like, that just carries so much weight. It's not worth it. And even if you live up to that, even if you are actually the Dark Souls of first person competitive shooters, you're still just being compared to something else instead of being your own thing. And that's the difficulty with Lawbreakers and any game that comes along trying to do like the Overwatch thing, is you will always only ever be, it's like Overwatch, but insert unique thing. And that's no way to be a trendsetter or to really make waves. You're just following in the shadow of some other behemoth. And you'll hear in this constant references where he constantly is saying, well, we're just, you know, we're not Overwatch. We're not doing the Overwatch kind of thing. Like, constantly bringing it up.
I started writing down all sorts of ideas and just stupid sketches and everything like that. And I went around and met with EA, Activision, Ubisoft, and I put the book down and I'd be like, I want to make another $1 billion IP.
Cliffy B burned through all his Epic money making this game. Well, apparently Cliff, he was an early investor in Oculus. And Oculus was, of course, eventually sold to Meta. And he got out with a lot of money. So apparently Cliffy B is doing just fine, specifically because he invested in Oculus. He made a ton off of that.
Organized insanity.
Does anyone remember who published
Gravity,
it?
Defiant.
Might have been on that poster. No. PS4. I can't. Frost something. Steam PS4. Alienware. I don't know. Who published this? Was it self-published? Nexon? Oh, is that what that is? I thought it was an H. I was like, Hexon? Okay, Nexon.
Gravity, Defiant, Combat.
This is Lawbreakers right here.
At the end of a match, I was shaking because my adrenaline was pumping.
It's crazy.
Movement's fantastic. The floor is lava. It's something brand new. It's not comparable. You can't compare it to anything.
Like Overwatch, but better.
Overwatch announcement trailer hit, and Matt Fishman looked at the trailer and he goes, oh, fuck.
So this isn't Overwatch?
No. It's Overwatch plus Unreal.
Similar to Overwatch.
Basically Overwatch with an anti-gravity field mechanic.
They're mixing the class systems of Overwatch with your more twitchy gameplay of Unreal Tournament.
Overwatch-oriented hero shooter.
It's familiar to Overwatch, and as much as you get triggered by hearing the word Overwatch while you're playing Lawbreakers, they are part of the same extended family of games, the hero shooter genre.
We were being compared to other games in the genre as our competitors, and alongside those, that's, you know, we felt like we didn't belong there with some of those comparisons.
Install that Chrome thing that removes YouTube comments for you.
Oh, you're just a Overwatch ripoff, and it's like, well, we were working on everything we knew for this game before we even saw Overwatch.
We're actually happy that there's games like Overwatch and Gigantic out there, so we can actually look at what they're doing and specifically say, let's not go in that direction.
So like, here's the deal. I feel bad for them because they were working on Lawbreakers before Overwatch was announced. Like, that's not even up for debate. Games like Concord are clearly built off of Overwatch. You know, they are just doing a clone of that game. They can say like, oh, well, we're trying to do something really different and unique and, just totally original. It's Overwatch. Like, come on, it's Overwatch. So while what these modern guys are doing is just straight up copying it, what Cliff did here was just an unfortunate timing where his game, if it had released sooner, probably could have stood on its own a little bit better. But this is the difficulty with marketing these games. It's the second that you're compared to something like Overwatch, you are always going to be playing catch up because they're not your own game anymore. You want people to say, well, it's like Lawbreakers, but more cartoony when describing Overwatch. Or it's like Lawbreakers, but really artsy fartsy and Guardians of the Galaxy inspired for Concord, right? You don't want them to be like, oh yeah, it's like Lawbreakers, that other game that was just a spin-off of Overwatch, even though they happened at the same time, right? But the second you're following, and playing catch up, you're fighting an uphill battle.
Lawbreakers, the upcoming game from Gears of War designer Cliff Bleszinski's new studio, is no longer free to play. Bleszinski explained that the business model simply wasn't the right fit for the game.
$29.99, none of that $60 multiplayer only bullshit. $29.99.
Yeah, remember when the original Battlefront dropped $60 full price?
Right fit for the game.
$29.99, none of that $60.
Oh. So they released it. Apparently it started as free to play and then they walked it back and decided to charge for it. That's not a good look. That's bad.
Multiplayer only bullshit. $29.99.
Okay.
It's none of that $60 multiplayer only bullshit. Right.
$29.99, none of that $60 multiplayer only bullshit.
$29.99, none of that $60 multiplayer only bullshit.
And it's up on the Steam wish list right now. Lawbreakers. You can wish list on Steam, which is very cool.
Silence.
You also recently announced that the game's coming to PlayStation 4.
Because I hate Xbox.
PS4, yep, PC, but no Xbox, right?
Yeah, and those Xbox fanboys are pretty salty.
Yeah, I mean, they supported you for a long time.
This was not a situation of I don't like Xbox because some of the fans feel betrayed that Xbox built you who you are. And I'm like,
right, yeah.
Look, I get you have feelings, that's cool, but this is a fucking business.
Yeah.
You should never talk down to your fans though. Like, they supported you all through Gears of War, which is where he got his start. And then he's just like, yeah, you got feelings. You feel bad that you cannot play my new game. Oh, it's so sad. Like, come on, dude. Like, what are you talking about? Chill out. They want to play your new game. That should be a good thing. Like, that should be a good thing that they're kind of bummed that you're not available. Your game's not available on their platform. But again, it's just everything about this game was just framed and advertised very, very poorly across the board.
Known in PC circles for talking trash about the PC as a platform in the past. I was wrong. Okay, let it go.
Hold on, let me read this. 2008. This is from 2008. Okay. The person who is savvy enough to want to have a good PC to upgrade their video card is a person who is savvy enough to know BitTorrent and all the elements so they can pirate software. Therefore, high-end video games are suffering very much on the PC. This actually, what's funny is I read an article recently where Gabe, our Lord Gabe, he actually pointed out something really, really interesting. Yeah, Gabe Newell mentioned people pirate games because it's the simplest way to obtain what they want and not because it's the cheapest. Basically, people aren't nudged to pirate content because they don't want to pay or the price is too high, but rather because the quality of the service for trying to be legitimate is so poor. And to be clear, this is over broad trends. Okay, the vast majority of like pirated versions of games, if you look at them, like they might be from Russian hackers that have broken the game and whatever it's called when you, isn't it breaking it when you break like the encryption so you can actually distribute it and play it without the DRM and stuff. Most of the global piracy happens because some games are just not available in certain areas. And this is something like he's talked about a lot, where if anybody would know about piracy and what causes it and how to avoid it, it would be the guy that runs Steam and Valve. Cracking it. That's right. Crack. Thank you, guys. So for some people, they absolutely pirate stuff because it's cheaper and free. But ultimately, when you look at like out of 1 million people or 1 million copies of a game that were pirated, there might be 100,000 people that did it because it was free and they didn't want to pay for the game. But 900,000 of them did it because they either wanted to try the game first before deciding to buy it. So they treat the pirated version kind of like a demo. And then if they like the game, they then buy it through Steam. So they get updates, they can play online, they can do all of that stuff. Or they can buy DLC and have that installed automatically, things like that. And so ultimately for him, it's really interesting because he's just, one thing that we've learned is that piracy is not a pricing issue. It's a service issue. The easiest way to stop piracy is not by putting anti-piracy technology to work. It's by giving those people a service that's better than what they're receiving from the pirates. For example, Newell noted that Valve was warned against the Russian market due to its massive pirate community. In actuality, Steam offered easier access to games, more options, and higher quality downloads than its underground competitors, thereby turning Russia into the studio's most lucrative continental European market outside of Germany. Added Newell, the point was that, where was it? The point was the people who are telling you that Russians pirate everything are the people who wait 6 months to localize their product into Russia so that, as far as we're concerned, is asked and answered. It doesn't take much in terms of providing better service to make pirates a non-issue. Which is just, it's a really simple thing where he's like, yeah, people tend to respond to like the market demand by porting the games themselves, distributing them underground because there's not a service that offers a better product. So he's like, if we can create a company that services those customers and does so really, really efficiently and offers a service that's worth the money and worth the price, then those people will stop pirating and will actually engage with us, which is really simple and straightforward, but makes sense, right? Makes sense. So it's interesting to hear these early 2000 or late 2000s comments on piracy. And it echoes another thing that I think a lot of corporate bigwigs have expressed as well, which is that PC is just the platform for piracy. And like, maybe, but I still think that it can be super lucrative if you do it right. Like, for example, if Sony does, in fact, as I suspect they will, if they do come out with a store of their own and they stop selling stuff on Steam, for example, I think at that point, PlayStation's product offering and their service offering is going to be so lackluster that people will then choose probably to go and pirate the game instead of having to deal with the Sony launcher. Whereas if Steam offers it for sale with a better product, a better service, people would be willing to buy it through Steam, but they don't want to buy it through the PlayStation launcher, which kind of reveals that it's a service issue, just like Gabe is mentioning. So I think that's a big component to it. Sorry, Gypsy, this has turned into a massive tangent off of your super chat, but thank you again for the 20. I greatly appreciate it. With all this, I think Concord is certainly chasing trends. It's not a situation quite like Lawbreakers, because Lawbreakers was just a game that released at the bad time and was marketed very, very poorly. Yeah, Steam Charts 2020 update. Current player 0, last 30-day average 0.2. Looks like someone actually or accidentally opened the game, which is pretty funny. So it's just, I think Concord is one of those games that was greenlit and built to take advantage of a trend that they thought would be profitable. And now I have to imagine they know how this is going to be received. They're looking at the like to dislike ratio. They're looking at the reception from gamers, and they know that this is just coming off as a money chasing product. Like, nobody thinks this was designed because they thought this would make for a really, really good game. Everybody knows this was specifically greenlit because it was going to help PlayStation potentially milk more money out of people. And that's it. And the second that's the vibe, that's the impression people have, it's damn near impossible to dig yourself out of that, you know? Like, damn near impossible to dig yourself out of that. And that's I mean, what else are you to do? What else are you to do? Like, they can't shake that impression now. You know? But it's like I've said a lot before. Perception is the reality you have to deal with. And if the perception is that this game has been built from the ground up to milk players for more money, that's the perception that PlayStation has to deal with. Whether it's true or not, maybe they did in fact actually think they had an amazing game on their hands here and they greenlit it, and it just so happens that it could potentially milk their fans for more money. But maybe they did honestly think this was going to be the best thing for a game. Maybe. But the perception that they have to deal with is that everybody thinks this is just another corporate pile of garbage that's meant to appeal to investors and hype them up, even if it doesn't necessarily make for the best game. And I can't think of a way that they could possibly dig themselves out of that. Like, I really can't think of a way that they dig themselves out of it. The he/him robot, well, like, that's another one of those things that makes me think, okay, this is for investors. Like, this is not actually something that's been crafted carefully based on, was it this or was it, I thought it was during the gameplay trailer. Maybe it's not. No, I guess not. It must be during the actual showcase thing, the deep dive thing they did. Concord. Jacob, did we do any Concord segments?
I'm outside.
Yeah, and they spent so much. Look how much time they spent on Concord. Just ridiculous. Okay, show me the character selector. Because I want to show you guys what he just referenced. Yeah, so it's fine. Like I mentioned earlier, if like they have combat traits, so presumably as you grind the game, you get traits that make the characters more powerful. Okay, interesting. That's fine. My thing is, like, it's a literal robot, and you're also adding like pronoun information, which again, I have no problem with pronouns on like creatures that have like a gender identity. That makes sense. This is a freaking robot. Like, it's a robot. I don't like put like I don't create gender identities for like my headphones or for the Xbox over there, or the Lego sets around me, because it's a freaking robot. Like, that's where I was like, okay, so this is more about just flexing all of that stuff. Like, this isn't even actually about anything else. One other thing I'm interested in, the free agent thing. Are these like free agents? Does that mean that they are like DLC characters you haven't bought yet? They're not part of your default squad. So like you have to unlock these characters later. Is that what that means? Or does that mean that those are just characters you haven't put into this group of players? I don't know. But that struck me as a little odd. But the other thing, as like, I don't know. It's just weekly rotation, maybe. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. It's just across the board. You look at each one of these characters, and I'm like, I don't. I find none of them interesting, like, at all. It's just like, okay. So I fully expect that that's going to collapse, but we will see. We will see. There will be a playable demo. I think if they release this for $40, that's stretching it. 50, people will riot. 70, they will get crucified. Like, game over, Red Rover. But again, this is one of those things. If anybody was asked before that came out, they could have told you, yeah, this is not going to be well received. You should not spend 10 minutes of the showcase, of the 30-minute showcase, talking about that. Anybody would have told you that. But somehow they thought that that was a reasonable thing to do. It's just ridiculous. Luke, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Dev says Series S is holding back scope of the game. I mean, I haven't seen that interview, but no part of that would be surprising if that's the case, because other devs like Larian have very openly said that. They're like, yeah, no, it's less powerful than the other consoles, so we are limited to whatever that can do. If there's something we want to do that the Series S can't do, we just, like, we're screwed. We can't do anything else. Like, we can't push it because it has to run on the Series S to be on Xbox. So it's either we don't release on Xbox or we figure it out. But the one guy loves hot sauce. Yuck. Yeah, dude, exactly. Like, it's like they thought, well, that'll pick up the slack, right? That'll be enough. That'll do it. That's enough. Oh man. That's Xbox's fault. I don't care. Well, like, here's the deal. Like, talking about the Series S is always tricky because inevitably people, like, if I say, hey, the Series S I think was a mistake and it's holding back this generation. If I say that, people immediately will jump on that as, whoa, hoity-toity Mr. Rich Man over here that can afford the full Series X is talking down to us people that can't afford the cheaper one. And I'm like, I'm saying this as somebody that owns a Series S. I've tried both. It's been on the shelf because I don't really have a reason to plug it in. I got it like as part of a Black Friday sale that they had where it was like $200 for the thing. And I've tried them both. And yes, I can afford the nicer console. I can afford to even have a Series S laying around, literally laying around. I'm not denying that. I'm not going to pretend to be financially struggling. I'm not going to pretend that I am strapped for cash or anything like that. I am very financially comfortable, thanks to all of you guys that watch the videos and support me and everything that me and my team do. That being said, though, that doesn't mean that you can't acknowledge certain realities, as far as I can tell, which is that the Series S is significantly less powerful than their other console and then the competitor's console. But that means that in order for a game to be fully cross-platform compatible, the devs have to limit it to whatever that thing can do. And if that can't do as much as everything else, they can only ever go and scale based on what that is capable of. And that, according to a lot of devs, is part of the factor that's limiting scope for this generation, is that big cross-platform games have to build off of the lowest common denominator like that. You know? I bet Jacob would love that Series S. Jacob, I got Jacob as a bonus. I forget what I think it was right around your birthday. I got Jacob a PlayStation 5 as like a little bonus because he had talked about he had just played like God of War 2018 on Steam and he wanted to play Ragnarok but didn't have a PlayStation, so I got him a PlayStation. But yeah, if he wants a Series S, I've got it laying around. I used to have that in like our bedroom. We had a TV up on the wall and then I would have that plugged in so I could still play Xbox games even from bed while Orion was just a little baby, because you know, you got the baby on your chest and he's sleeping and hanging out. You want to be able to take care of him. But since then I haven't been able to like get it mounted right. So yeah. Yeah, wow, look, we're so close to 100K. What are we at now? 96,932. Oh, baby. We are on our way. I was also surprised that clip we did on Marathon has been doing quite well. It's at like 44,000. Apparently not many people knew that it was a hero shooter. Apparently a lot of people also, that was news to them, which I was like, I feel like I'm pretty in tune with gaming news, and I just didn't log that away in my brain. Like, I just didn't really consider it, but yeah. Okay. Oh, interesting. Ubisoft sent me this special Assassin's Creed Shadows box that should contain new info on the game, and I need your help to open it. We'll do it live June 4th. Countdown right here. How precarious, how peculiar. I thought it was an extraction shooter. Yeah, so did I, Jade. But apparently it's not. Apparently they changed it, and now it is an extraction hero shooter. So instead of you having a character, it's a hero-based one, which people pointed out is basically Hunt Showdown. Shadow Legends is a different thing. But yeah, I don't know how that works, but we'll see. Yeah, I don't know. This is interesting. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll do something. Luke, have you played Ghost Recon Breakpoint after it got fixed? Really want to know your opinion on the game. I've not tried it since, at least I don't think, since it was fixed. I did play it with my buddy Caleb a while back. It's been a bit, but yeah. I'm getting all the emails about SGF. They are loading us up, giving us all the deets. You want me to show you my box? You want me to show you my box? Do I have a box? I have a stack of boxes. Some you can't see. You can't see my box. Let me just hold on. One funny thing I thought of doing was tagging like Hassan and being like, hey, I'm gonna collab with Hassan today. And then whenever I get up out of my chair to walk away, that's when I'm collabing with Hassan, and it's just the empty chair sitting there, which I think would be funny. Don't you think it'd be funny? Just like, wow, did you hear Luke's collabing with Hassan? And then it's just empty chair. Are there any other streamers that, like, the meme is that they leave their chairs empty? I feel like Pokemon, whatever her name is, probably does that too. Okay. I got a note. Let's see. I actually have a camera for this. Hold on. Maybe. There we go. Okay. You ready? Ready for this? Interesting. Bubble wrap. XQC will put a video on and leave the stream. I've heard of people doing that. I don't know how you're allowed to do that. Like, if you want to put on your own video, that's fine. Like, if it's a segment people might have missed or something, that's fine. Whatever. Who cares? But if you're just, like, turning on somebody else's YouTube video, that seems odd. Let's see. Okay, so this box I just got. And let's see kind of what we're dealing with. Trying to delicately remove the bubble wrap. Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. This is freaking heavy, dude. This is heavy. Like, it's actual steel. Golly. Like, they're not messing around with this thing. You know that guy on TikTok, the lock pick dude? I need to do a collab with him on this. Gee whiz. It doesn't budge at all. I don't know. I'm gonna have to figure out how to open it. My understanding in the brief is that I'm allowed to try to open this with you guys' help tomorrow. Today I can show you my box, but tomorrow we can actually try to open it. Have a starry on? Oh yeah. I'll quick save before he tries. I don't know. Some pieces move a little bit, but I don't know. This is gonna be fun. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna figure that out. And I guess in the meantime, what do? Do I just set it like behind me, delicately next to Johnny? That work? That work? Full transparency. I don't know what's in that. I don't, like, this is not coy. This is not secretive. I've had that box sitting there and I don't know what's in there. As Joraptor alluded to, it should contain new info on the game. I don't know what new info that would be, but we'll probably find out tomorrow. It's a pretty cool thing, honestly. I love this kind of like interactive reveals where it's not just like, oh, we made a Twitter post. It's like, oh, here's an actual tangible thing that we're working through together, which is pretty cool. Would be hilarious to get lockpicking lawyer to open it. Dude, wouldn't that be amazing? Like, like they gave me a bunch of complex hints and clues as to how to break into the puzzle box. But I hired somebody else to help me, which is pretty funny. Yeah, it's for AC Shadows. Yeah. You just blue balled us all. Yeah, I'm allowed to show it to you today, and then tomorrow we can try to open it. So shout out to Ubisoft for sending that over. I mean, that's pretty damn cool. I appreciate it. I find that kind of thing awesome. I just love it. I eat it up. Disrespectful, but I'm interested. Oh man. Use your dad's strength to rip it off. I could do that. Just tear it apart. Imagine if like they reach back out to me. They're like, so Luke, did you get the box open once you were allowed to start like taking it apart with your audience? And I'm like, well, I didn't get it open with the puzzle. But I had this hatchet. And yes, ma'am, I did get it open. Sure did. And I sent him a picture, and it's just torn apart like a gorilla, just mauled. That would be pretty funny. That would be pretty funny. I have a saw. Yeah. Wow, it's literally just more bubble wrap. I'm okay with that. Yeah, and then you watch everybody go into like hyper overdrive, being like, what does that mean? It means we are all bubbles in an ocean bubbling up with speculation about a game. It's all part of the plan. It's all part. Oh, man. Everything inside is destroyed. Yeah, imagine if I'm like, I talk to them, I'm like, yeah, I got it open. I used a hammer to get into it. But you know what, Ubisoft, I think somebody messed up. Everything inside mine, it's just like a bunch of little pieces of something. It looks like it's shattered. I don't know if I'm supposed to reassemble it or whatever. Like, Luke, it was in one piece when you started hacking at it, but damn it. So anyway, shout out to Ubisoft for sending the puzzle box. We will try to get into it. I'm hopeful I can figure it out, but we will find out when the time comes. We will figure it out together. Okay. This is just funny. Do you feel bad yet? XQC earned more money from betting on the CS2 tournament than all the participating teams combined. 100, 142, 162, 182, 192, 200,000, 206, 212, 217, 222. It's like, it's probably what, 250,000 is the prize pot. XQC made 343,000. Jesus. Oh, Jesus. Decided to watch some CS on a whim and witnessed Absolute Cinema also hit this massive prediction at once. Cheers. He bet 100 grand on that. 100 grand. This is the thing where I'm like, guys, I just genuinely, people always wonder how these guys end up going broke. It's because they do this kind of thing. The second the money dries up, they're screwed. Like if XQC stopped pulling in $1 million a month or whatever he does, he'd just be totally screwed. Because like you can't just turn off this level of spending and stuff. Like it's crazy.
Get my trade.
Well, I can't. I'm crossfired.
Get my good trade.
Wait a minute.
500 gifted. No, wait, not dollars.
Is he him?
$500.
Oh my god!
Oh! Oh my god!
That was unironically a very good clip. I'll give him that. Oh, man. Upcoming accusations. XQC has been tampering with esports tournaments for profit. No, I just think he's betting on these games. Like, he's got a partnership with Stake too. That's the other thing with these big streamers that do this. Like, he has a partnership with Stake where they pay him and they probably cover a lot of his bets. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't even have to pay that 100,000 if he lost. Like, they probably have a certain allowance where they'll just eat the cost, you know? People like XQC, it's my understanding is his audience is quite young, but yeah, he's one of the biggest streamers in the world still. This would be interesting. Maybe we should look at this. Oh wait, dude, I'm getting recommended all of the old no clips after that video on Star Citizen where I pulled up one of these clips 9 years ago. Largest game ever. Look at this. Look at this. This is just from 5 years ago. Well, it's actually, why is it saying 5 years ago, but it's 2018? Whatever. It's almost 6 years ago, but let's see what they were talking about 5 years ago. 5 years ago.
Welcome to the Know. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Gus.
Star Citizen has been one of the biggest crowdfunding success stories in the history of gaming. I mean, I say one of. No.
Real quick, before they say it, how much money do you think they had raised back in 2018? July of 2018. How much money do you think they raised? Because today it's over $700 million. How much do you think they were at this time? I'm going to guess 315 million. That's my guess. 315. 70 million, 200, 100, 500. A lot of people in like the 200 range. 100 million, 150 million. Okay. It's a pretty good spread. Dude. $100 says Bethesda's Starfield will come out before Star Citizen. Well, sure did. Fact check true. You know?
No, it is the biggest success story. It's raised over $190 million since its very first.
190, way less than I thought. I thought they were at like 315. Just under 6 years ago, they were at.
No, it is the biggest success story. It's raised over $190 million since its very first Kickstarter campaign back in 2012, and it's still going.
But as the years have gone by, some fans have become disillusioned about the epic space project from Chris Roberts that promised to take PC players back to the days of awesome flight sims like Wing Commander.
Right, well, since then, things have changed just a little bit. The project has grown into not one, 2 games, a single-player game they're calling Squadron 42, and an MMO called The Persistent Universe. But after all these years, neither one has a full release date still. They've released like some modules here and there, but still waiting for the full thing.
So of course that's led some frustrated fans to take matters into their own hands, and one.
I wonder if Gus is going to say how much he had spent on the game at this point. I wonder if he'll say.
An early backer of the project decided to take them to court.
But not Gus.
Not me.
That fan was not Gus.
I was a late backer.
The fan, Ken Lord, gave nearly $4,500 to the project back in 2013, but this year he had had enough, so he took developer Robert Space Industries to small claims court in California.
But his efforts didn't work. A few days ago, a judge dismissed the case and cited an arbitration clause in the Star Citizen end user license agreement. You better read those.
You gotta read those. You don't read them, you get in big trouble like this.
And that agreement prevents anyone from taking Robert Space Industries to court for a refund.
Now it gets
Which there's been speculation, not speculation, there's been debate over like these types of arbiter clauses and things, because you'll sign it and it just like straight up prevents you from having recourse if they behave poorly, or it forces very specific levels of recourse where you have to go through certain means of mediation or any sort of other things. And it's just, it's kind of weird. It's a little sketchy, but in the US it's fine. Because again, it's the signing party's responsibility to know what they're signing. And if they don't know what they're signing, that's on them.
a little bit technical, but basically, Lord argued the game's terms of service have changed multiple times over the years, and that arbitration clause that says you can't take us to court for a refund wasn't in previous terms of services, like, say, maybe the one when he backed.
But in the end, the judge sided with Robert Space Industries and its current terms of service.
RSI was asked by Motherboard about the availability of refunds in the game, and they responded, "Our terms of service provides refunds for 14 days after each pledge is made, but company policy is to refund anyone who has second thoughts for up to 30 days after their pledge, no questions asked."
Why do they have two policies?
Well, there's...
Yeah, it's kind of like, well, then why isn't that the company policy? What?
So that they can look like the good guys when, you know, you call up and they're like, "Oh, well, you're out of your 14-day window, but I tell you what, we'll do it for you."
All right.
But they got to set a cutoff somewhere, right?
Okay, I guess. They added, outside of this window, we still consider refund requests for exceptional cases, but generally at that point, the funds need to be considered available for development. This policy is actually very generous when compared to nearly any other gaming company. Most publishers would not allow any refund at all after players have downloaded and played for several hours.
That's true. That's true. But there are things that will be null and void in contracts even if signed, right? Yeah. Sometimes, like, there's unenforceable contracts here in the States where, like, if I have you sign a piece of paper that says you'll be my slave for the next billion years, that's not really enforceable. That wouldn't be considered a legitimate contract, even though you signed it, because it's so ridiculous, right? It's why, like, people can leave the Church of Scientology, even though to join the Sea Org, they have to sign an agreement that they will be in service of the church for the next billion years. They signed it, but that doesn't mean that it's enforceable, right? With this, I think it's... this is why it's kind of tricky. Like, there are certain things like NDAs, which or like non-competes, which can sometimes be deemed unenforceable, where say you worked for a game developer like like Naughty Dog or somebody, and you worked on their games, but then you were fired for one reason or another. Maybe they thought you stole some data, or maybe they just were downsizing, whatever. They got rid of you. And then you leave, but you signed a non-compete, meaning that you can't go and work for any direct competitors. So you can't go and get a job working at like an Xbox studio, even if they're the only ones hiring, right? It can cause all sorts of problems. Other industries see this problem too. If you are like an AI engineer with Meta and you leave Meta, you can't just go with those contracts and work at Apple within their AI divisions because they're considered a competitor. So there's all sorts of problems with it. And naturally, a lot of court challenges have come out where they're arguing that those are unconstitutional because like it's ridiculous that you just won't be allowed to work in your industry because anybody you would go and work for would be considered a competitor of the first company. But the inherent difficulty with all of this is like you sign something, it might not be enforceable, it might not be valid, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to afford to go through the court process of getting there. There was the recent story with that political commentator, Steven Crowder. He had one of his former employees recently sue him because he had to sign a non-compete when he left the Steven Crowder or whatever company. And he signed that non-compete, but it meant that he could no longer work in any media at all. So he couldn't work in any semblance of a media company. Otherwise, Crowder's lawyers would come and file all sorts of stuff to get him fired, and he'd have to leave. And so he's like, that I don't think is an enforceable thing. That seems ridiculous. But in order to get a judge to agree that it's ridiculous, you have to go through waves of lawyers and court battles and all sorts of stuff that is freakishly expensive. And the inherent power imbalance between the company that had you sign that and you as an individual makes it extremely difficult for it to be truly fair. Because like if I, as a wealthy YouTuber, go and have you sign a non-compete, but then that harms your future employment chances, and you go through waves of attorney fees and all that, that could destroy your life while you're going through the court battle. And then ultimately the judge says, yep, you're good, you can work wherever you want. Yeah, that wasn't enforceable. Well, you just spent tens of thousands of dollars to get that answer, and now you're free, but it kind of ruined your life in the process, right? Whereas for me, it might not be as big a deal. So non-competes are always just a nightmare, and really, really toxic, in my humble opinion. But with this kind of thing, you're buying a product, and with the early like supporting of something like Star Citizen, it's tricky because like you know that you're not getting the product day one. Like you understand you're putting money in basically for early access to something that isn't done yet. So even if the clause that said you're not eligible for a refund were considered void, even if that was not a thing that was in those contracts and the judge didn't consider it, still it's pretty tough to argue to a judge that, yeah, that thing I did years ago, I want my money back. Like that's a little tougher to argue, because it's like, well, you know, there were certain expectations set in place at the time. Like I think this was always going to be a difficult case to win.
So basically, top line.
They aren't enforceable anymore. I thought it was only specific states can't enforce them, but maybe it's on the federal level. I don't know. Because I've heard lawyers that have done like coverage of this stuff, and they've said that like, yeah, non-competes are not enforceable, but you still signed it in a contract, so we have to go through the court process to get a judge to agree to that. So I don't know. And I won't pretend to know like what these courts have recently said. I just know it's been a hot button issue, especially in my field, because there's all sorts of non-competes, NDAs and stuff that we sign all of the time to do any coverage of any game, you know?
Fine, if you're more than a month out, probably not getting a refund. And that's probably going to piss off some of the early backers of the game that have seen a lot of what's called feature feature creep.
That's a gaming development term for a project that gets bogged down as developers add on more and more features until it finally becomes too unwieldy.
And it happens a lot with crowdfunding games in particular, because they make too much money and they're like, what are we going to do with
Let's
all
do
this
more.
money? And then, whoops, unmanageable. I mean, that's what happened to, I in fact just talked about this in the roundup today, the 1994 sci-fi classic System Shock's remake as well. That project raised more than $1.3 million via Kickstarter, but then it got put on hiatus earlier this year because the dev team said the project had strayed too far from the original vision. They got a bunch of extra money, more than they thought they were going to get, and they were like, well, we can do this, and we can do this, and we can tweak this thing, and then it ended up all taking way more than they thought it would. So they came back a few months later with plans to get the project restarted, seem to have righted the ship, so that's good. Because
And that did eventually launch. Sure did. As of news as of May 7th this year. Ooh, breaking news. FTC ruling bans all non-competes between employers and workers. Boom! Thank you, Zeeks, for that update. That's fantastic. FTC announced a blanket rule recently, but not fully official yet, so it's complicated a bit. Yeah, I think we're in like a transitionary period where it probably is like, that's the ruling, but now there's probably challenges and stuff like that, you know? So there's things like that complicated. Nikki's calling me, so I'm just gonna take this real quick. I'll be right back. Okay, everybody. I'll let them talk. I'll be right back. Where's my button? I don't know. Wrong button. Okay, hold on. Okay, I'm back. Okay, we're good. We're good. One of the boys took a tumble out of the like cart at a store, so it bonked his head, and so Nikki was like, they're fine. They don't seem to have any concussion or anything. Everything seems fine, but I just want you to be aware of it because this afternoon we'll keep an eye on her. And so she sounds pretty startled by all of it, but it sounds like the boys are fine. It just kind of spooked her. It's quite spoopy. But anyway, we're good. We're good. With that, let's finish this out.
Because they brought it back to the original vision.
But Star Citizen is in a league of its own when it comes to missed deadlines and feature creep.
Now, to give you just a little idea of how much Star Citizen has changed, the game was originally planned for release in 2014, which, for those of you doing the math, is 4 years ago.
That checks out. Back in 2012, when the Kickstarter launched, the initial pitch was to build a high-end space sim for PC, which had fallen out of style with the big game publishers.
The campaign promised that Star Citizen would bring the visceral action of piloting interstellar craft through combat and exploration to a new generation of gamers at a level of fidelity never before seen.
It also said the game would be a complete universe where any number of adventures can take place, allowing players to decide their own game experience. It said players would be able to pick up jobs as a smuggler, pirate, merchant, bounty hunter, or enlist as a pilot protecting the borders from outside threats.
And then the final game would be a huge sandbox with a complex and deep lore, allowing players to explore or play in whatever capacity they wish.
So obviously it's really ambitious stuff, and again, that was in the initial pitch.
Also, you could have just said, like Wing Commander, but new.
New.
That's what a lot of people were backing, I think. Since then, virtually none of that has actually materialized. There have been some really pretty looking spaceships, admittedly, some of which were sold to players for hundreds of dollars, a few playable modules, you got your hangar, you can go look at your pretty ships. So they do have some of that stuff going on, but the games, not quite here yet.
Not quite there. The biggest content released so far has been Star Citizen Alpha version 3.0, which came out late last year.
Well, and the alpha seemed to show off some of the initial promises of the game's funding campaign. Really beautiful visuals for planets and ships you could fly around in. You could get into dogfights, even participate in a handful of missions.
But ultimately, there still wasn't much to do, no enemies to kill, and just a handful of planets to check out.
It was almost like, it felt kind of like a tech demo.
Oh, yeah. The spaceships were beautiful, but as Eurogamer noted, what is the point of owning a Lamborghini if you live in a neighborhood with speed bumps and a 20-mile-per-hour speed limit? I would say, what's the point of owning a Lamborghini if you can only look at it in your garage? That might be a better analogy.
Yeah, well, the alpha also had some major frame rate issues, and these were on servers with just 50 players, which makes me worry about a large-scale game.
As for Squadron 42, the single-player campaign, Cloud Imperium Games released an hour of gameplay footage earlier this year, and while it definitely looked pretty,
Very pretty.
Still no release date set, and some folks have felt like the MMO has taken focus away from the single-player game.
Meanwhile, all this is going on, the game's continuing to rake in cash. Star Citizen raised $34.9 million in 2017, 36.1
Just listen to that one more time.
cash. Star Citizen raised $34.9 million in 2017.
2017. It takes in
Going to rake in cash. Star Citizen raised $34.9
$34.9 million. In November of 2023, one singular month, they took in just under 30 million. In a single month. So now, some months, they're doing as much money as they took an entire year to do in years past, which is crazy. It's outrageous. Why does this feel like a scam? Well, because, so I will rely on the dictionary definition, scam definition, okay? Because I don't want anybody to get it twisted. I don't want anybody to accuse me of twisting the definitions or anything. When somebody calls something like Star Citizen a scam, they are accusing it of being a fraudulent or deceptive act or operation, in this case, operation. So they're saying the offering of Star Citizen, that they're taking money for this stuff, is fraudulent or deceptive. When you look at their stores, so Robert Space Industries, if you pull up their actual online store and all that, and pledge, where's the like online stores and stuff, like earn, all of that stuff, apps, pledge store, there we go. If you pull this stuff up, you can see that they have some paint schemes that are operable in the game now. You know, this stuff is actually available in the game now. Weapon and armor pack collection, $60, all that stuff. This is to actually get the game. Then they have further ships and things like that. Constellation Aquila. View specs. View buying options. It's $315. I've played with people in the game that are flying this ship, that are actually using it. So this is in the game. It's $315, but you can buy the ship and use it. So this isn't fraudulent. It's not deceptive. You are paying money and you get this thing in exchange for your money. So that's not a scam. Where I think people feel like it's more of a scam is buying ships, for example, that are not available yet, which is more fair. I think that makes more sense. You know, there's like the big Javelin that they have. Those are, over 400. Some of these ships have not even seen the light of day and don't exist yet. They're just in the concept phase. They haven't actually been released. Is the Perseus out yet? I don't actually know. In concept. So like this stuff, if you were able to buy it, that would be weird because it's like it doesn't even exist yet, but you're buying it when it doesn't exist yet. As far as I'm aware, you're not able to buy this, but maybe there is a way that you could pull it off. I don't know. But there's a lot of ships like this that are that are in concept. There's others like this one available now in the game. You could play with it. So this stuff, I don't think fits the definition of a scam. Squadron 42 is the other side of it, which is the single player game that has like Mark Hamill in it. And do they have it? I don't see. So you could say that's a scam where they've taken money in through these pledges to put that out, and it still has not seen the light of day. That one, again, if they were taking, does anyone know, are they taking money specifically for Squadron 42? Is there a way to buy Squadron 42 right now? Like a pre-order kind of thing. Is that available right now? Yes, Sacred or Scared, I can't read it. Scared Crowns. Thank you. It's feature complete now, and no, you can't buy it. It's in all the packages. Oh, so like the starter package to get access to the current like connected universe thing. This includes Squadron 42. Citizen, self-landed hangar, starting money. It doesn't say Squadron 42, but maybe that's just something they've mentioned elsewhere. But either way, so if that's the case, you could say that maybe they're taking money and they're intentionally going to pocket it and not do anything with Squadron 42. We do know that they've shown it off. They say it's feature complete. They say they're in the polishing phase and refining it and everything. So that's in process. But the term scam has very particular meanings, and that as far as I can tell, Star Citizen doesn't meet those. Are they wildly like have their expectations and goals wildly grown? Yes. This game was supposed to release a literal decade ago in 2014. So absolutely fair to say that the game is totally different from what they initially wanted it to be, but it's grown and shifted with the money that's come in, and they've changed their expectations and what they're trying to do. They've also shown some crazy impressive tech. So they've actually developed stuff that is wildly impressive, like this Star Engine demo that just like took a mean, dirty, I don't even know what on Starfield. Like this whole thing felt like a personal attack against the game. Wildly impressive tech. So they've shown this stuff off, and you can play the game right now in the version that they have. Mark Hamill will die before this is out. Don't taint it. Somebody already said, I'm predicting now Starfield will be out before this game. Because when this game, like when that video we just watched was out, it was in July of 2018, just after they had announced Starfield and The Elder Scrolls 6. And so to say Starfield was going to come out before this was like kind of a ballsy prediction. And then it ended up actually happening. So I don't know when or if this game will ever launch. I know there's people in it playing it right now that are happy with the money they've spent and are happy with what is in the package as of right now. Just like any other early access game, you might spend $30 on it, get in early, play the game when it's not feature complete, and then you can still feel like your money was well spent before you see the final product. You know, earlier there were issues with Chris Roberts hiring family like his wife, who did pretty bad jobs and still do. I remember reading about those kind of scandals that were coming out at the time. I remember reading about those. I'm not sure if anything came of it though.
Is now a member. The new Prince of Persia rogue looks cool.
Hell yeah. Thank you, my friend. Yeah, Prince of Persia, it's unfortunate that the recent game from, I think, January didn't do better because it was really good. I hope that they don't dump the franchise, but they might in the long term, you know? But thank you for the 2 months. Thank you, my friend. Yeah. Oh, by the way, Sean, while I was taking the phone call, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships on YouTube. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you. Very generous. Let's see, Mr. Goodfella. I'm so sorry. I'm just seeing this 45 minutes later. We got caught up talking about all this stuff. My goodness. Mr. Goodfellow, thank you. Hey, Luke, my daughter Stella and I are huge fans, and tomorrow is her 5th birthday. Anyway, you can wish her a happy birthday. It would absolutely make her day even more special. Thank you for the content. Absolutely. Happy birthday, Stella. That's fantastic. 5 years old. That's a big one. That's a big one. Congratulations. 5 years. That's crazy. My oldest is 2, and he's going to be, oh God, he's going to be 3 later this year. I don't want to think about it, but that's crazy. But happy birthday, Stella. That's fantastic. Happy birthday. Mulus, thank you also for the 5. Have you heard anything about Blue Point? I know there was a rumor about Bloodborne remake, and it's been 2 years since Ragnarok and Force and Demon Souls. Apparently they're working on their own thing. That's all it's been phrased as, is that they're working on their own project. I don't know if that means an original IP or like a Bloodborne remake, but we'll see. Danny, my daughter's 26. It does get easier around 25. But until 25, every birthday is like, no, you're not allowed to grow up. That's where I'm at. UB Montreal posted early they're moving on to Prince of Persia remake, so I'm guessing Splinter Cell almost done. Okay, yeah, that would time out. Yeah. Sorry, what game is it? Oh, this is Star Citizen. This is the whole thing. This video is the perfect encapsulation of how far my grandfather said he had to walk in the snow to get to school. Luke, Avalanche announced they're laying off people. Which Avalanche? Because there's 2. There's Hogwarts Legacy Avalanche, and then there's Avalanche Studios Group. So they're different. Avalanche Games, and then Avalanche Studios Group. Avalanche, it looks like Just Cause Avalanche. Oh. Studios Group. Okay. New segment. Yeah. Avalanche Studios Group, a statement just came out. Since its inception over 2 decades ago, Avalanche Studios Group has grown to encompass 5 locations worldwide: Stockholm, New York, Malmo, Liverpool, and Montreal. Today, we regretfully announce the closure of 2 of those locations, New York and Montreal. This means we'll be parting ways with around 50 of our valued friends and colleagues, which represents roughly 9% of Avalanchers worldwide. This is an exceptionally difficult decision, but we believe it's necessary to ensure a stable and sustainable future for the company. Our focus is now on supporting all Avalanchers through this challenging time. We're grateful for the invaluable contributions of those leaving and remain committed to creating incredible gaming experiences for our players. And these guys are the ones behind these. Call of the Wild, Generation Zero, Rage 2, Call of the Wild, Just Cause 4, Mad Max, Just Cause 3, Renegade Ops, Just Cause 2, The Hunter Classic, Just Cause, Ravenbound. Jeez, man. So they're shutting 2 of the studios, but that's about 50 people. So they're smaller teams off in New York and Montreal. Some people, like, when I hear Avalanche is closing, I immediately jump to Warner Brothers, because there's Avalanche through Warner Brothers, and Avalanche it's a different team. So Hogwarts Legacy Avalanche is unaffected, which kind of makes sense because they had the most successful game of the year last year. But to hear these guys are facing layoffs sucks. But it's been a minute. They've had some difficulty getting things kind of figured out. Even this, it looks like their last Avalanche Studios game was what, Rage 2? Because this is Expansive World, System Reaction, Systemic Reaction, Expansive Worlds, Just Cause 4. I mean, Just Cause 4, it really struggled. Honestly, like it just didn't come together. For me, I remember I tried it, I've played it. It's fine, but it's just really, really, I don't know. They were just trying to come up with what's the thing that will make this game worth getting. And they're like, well, let's add tornadoes and stuff. And it's fun to mess around in for like 20 minutes, but it just doesn't ever click together. Furthermore, it also launched super buggy and broken, if I recall correctly. Yeah,
After
this is
wrapping up
4.
around 20 hours worth of Just Cause 4's story missions and having destructive fun blowing up basically all the things, I went back and read my review of Just Cause 3 from 2015. This, I thought, explains that deja vu sensation. With a few exceptions, that review will tell you everything you need to know about Just Cause 4's strengths. It's just as gloriously over the top and action movie stupid as the last one, but it doesn't really come with a must-have new idea to give it its own identity.
Yeah, I remember seeing clips of these and I couldn't tell the games apart. I didn't know which was which.
Weather controlling machine, I'd like to think I'd make more creative use of it. The new weather effects are cool to look at, but they're underused and weren't much fun to play around with when they were. It's not that there's nothing new under the tropical sun. For one, the map of the island of Solis feels just as expansive as Just Cause 3's Medici, without directly repeating it. Like a great filming location, you're never far from beaches, jungles, deserts, snowy mountains, and everything in between. Its urban areas are a tad on the bland side, but outside of that it checks all the boxes for what you'd want and expect in an open world game. Liberating that map has a new spin that resolves one of my chief complaints about Just Cause 3's repetitive propaganda-destroying missions. Almost all of the several dozen provinces have a real mission associated with it. Sure, you'll play most types more than once, but it's a significant step up in variety. I was disappointed by the Conquest map, though. All you really do here is say, yes, I took this over, after you've already done the mission to unlock the rewards, and the enemy never tries to take any territory back. Here we go! Those unlocks are mostly for the air.
Does he have like performance
damage and heals so quickly that most of its firepower at you when Just Cause 4 feels the most sensational. Across the board, just about every weapon has an alt fire function that usually makes up for the lack of grenades or placed charges. Most guns come with something that's at least as destructive, and the sticky mine launcher fills that role nicely, though it is hard to come by. But I'd have loved to see Just Cause double down even more on destructibility than Just Cause 3 did, and it doesn't really. Just Cause 4 has everything you'd expect from a Just Cause game, almost to a fault. Relative to Just Cause 3, the improvements are widespread across its beautiful world, but generally minor. So while blowing up yet another dictator's army is the same kind of mindless explosive fun and physics-based comedy the series is built on, it doesn't do much to incorporate the new weather systems or grapple mods into combat. That leaves me with a distinct, more of the same feeling.
Yeah. And it's just too bad. Like, honestly, Just Cause 2 is just goated. It's just goated. I played so much Just Cause 2 back in the day. Freaking loved it. Look at this launch trailer. Like, looking back on it now, I'm like, oh yeah, that looks like a 360 game. You know, I can tell. But still, it was so unique, so fun. It moved so tight. It was just, oh. I remember I would just go and like drive around and glide across the city and just dick around. Like, I had so much fun with it. It's just so good. And even to this day, it's still a good time. But that's the thing is, like, Just Cause 3 didn't really crank a lot of knobs. They just kind of did more of the same. And then Just Cause 4 is basically just a DLC for Just Cause 3. Like, it really doesn't feel that different. Yeah, I love Just Cause 2. The original Just Cause is super weird, though. It's really kind of tough to play now. Cause yeah, look at this. Original Xbox Just Cause. Rico ran super weird. Like, look how he runs. Like, runs with his back out, his butt pushed forward. It's really odd. Really, really odd. They also didn't have the full grapple hook, so you couldn't do like the parachute, I don't know what you call it, like gliding thing where you grab onto a building and kind of swing with the parachute. Instead, you could like use the parachute, open it, and then have your grapple hook attached to a car that was driving forward. But that was about it. And like the physics on some of the driving mechanics were really, really bad. But for the time, I remember having good fun with it. It was one of the few games my brother Joe got, and I also played the crap out of it. I love these open world games. I used to just drive around the map doing nothing, with no goals, nothing, just driving around. That's it. Like, it was ridiculous. But and it's what's so interesting. It's like back in the day, this was enough fun for me to like have hours and hours and hours of entertainment by it. Like, I don't know how many dozens and dozens of hours. I just drove around the city, you know, finished schoolwork and everything, and just wanted to do that. Like, the game was super simple, but it was enough, you know? It was enough. And that's the difference. It's games now, very few of them feel like enough. Oh, Jesus. Richard. I'm not saying you're Jesus, Richard. I'm just like, oh, God. But Richard, thank you, Gringer, for the $150 super chat. Jesus. Thank you, my friend. Dropping in to support independent games journalism after the massive IGN consolidation. Keep doing what you're doing, Luke. Thank you, my friend. Golly, that's extremely generous. And yeah, I heard about all the consolidation of all those media companies. They merged, like, most gaming websites and stuff you've heard of are probably all now part of the same parent company. It's pretty crazy. They're all merged together now. It's just one big happy family, right? One big, huge, happy family. So thank you, my friend. I greatly appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll go get Nikki a coffee, because sounds like after the boy, after one of my, well, they both took a tumble. One of them, it sounds like, bumped his head. But after the boys took their tumble at the store, I think she needs the caffeine, needs a pick-me-up. So thank you, my friend. Greatly appreciate you. They've got a monopoly on the industry. Well, it kind of makes sense why all of these things, all the reporting kind of is just samey across everything. What was the name of the company that bought everything out? Gamer Network? Is that what it's called? I think that's what it was. Yeah. Miles, thank you for the 4 months.
Miles
Godfather's
Juba
Game.
Robertson is now a member. Godfather the game and Godfather part good times, don't you think, Luke?
Godfather the game and Godfather part good times, don't you think, Luke? I'm trying to piece together what you mean, my friend. Do you mean like Godfather, the original game from, like, I just Googled it, 2006? Is that what you're referring to? And then they did the 2009 follow-up game. Are you wondering if they're going to, like, remake those? Meant part 2. Oh, part 2. Good times, don't you think, Luke? I'll be honest, I never played those old Godfather games. Are they good? They remind me of the Mafia games, but I don't know if they actually play like that. They're so much like Mafia, so good. Well, I love Mafia, so maybe I should play them. I'll pull it up. Are they, like, backwards compatible, or are they available through Steam or something? I don't know. I'll pull it up. I have it pulled up in another tab. I'll look at that, because I love the Mafia games. If they're good, then I'll try them. Hell yeah. Thank you for the recommendation. Appreciate you. Godfather 2 is goated. Sweet. I'll have to try them. I'll put them on my ROG Ally. Maybe I'll play it on the flight. Joe Mitchell, thank you for the 5 as well. Any predictions for Summer Game Fest? Sorry if you've talked about it already. I mean, he's already hinted at it. I don't really expect any big surprising announcements or anything. I expect bigger looks at games like Monster Hunter Wilds. I expect to see a good amount of Dragon Age Dreadwolf. So I imagine we see a lot of that. Dreadwolf, I don't know how it's going to be received. I think because the rumors are that they're moving away from the Inquisition top-down kind of very wide angle view of the player characters, it sounds like they're going to shift and do more of like a God of War 2018 inspired camera angle and everything. But I don't know if that's actually going to be the case. Either way, I think they're going to try very hard to differentiate themselves from Baldur's Gate, which is what they need to do. If they're on a precipice. If they compare themselves to Baldur's Gate 3, they have to meet that standard of quality, and I don't think they will. I think that could be bad. But if they can differentiate themselves and be like, we're doing something different, then I think they could actually stand a chance of success. The problem that they could face is that they're like, well, Baldur's Gate 3 was a huge success. Let's market ourselves as being similar to them. And that would be a big blunder. So we'll find out how they're marketing it. I think if they frame it as Baldur's Gate Light, that could be a mistake. But if they frame it as something different, that could be really good. So I think most of its success is going to be predicated on how they market it. Bert, hi, worked on Dreadwolf. It's confusing when I got to play it briefly. Only did outsourcing though, but it's more of an evolution of Inquisition. Inquisition was already more action than RPG. Yeah, it seemed like they were shifting away after like Origins was very, very RP heavy, and then 2 was kind of an exception to everything. Not many people talk about it or reference it. But then Inquisition was kind of their attempt to do just big budget, kind of stereotypical for 2014 AAA game. And it worked at one game of the year. One game of the year, but it'll be interesting to see how it's evolved and shifted. Based on what Bert's saying, you know. I used to love the No so good, then they effed it all up. Yeah, Danny, what happened with the No? I don't even know what happened with the No. All I know is they rebranded to like Inside Gaming, and then they lost a bunch of the talent, a bunch of the hosts disappeared. I don't know. If somebody knows what happened to the No, I would love to know. Because I used to watch every video they'd put up every day. It was like part of my daily routine was watching their gaming news updates back in like 2017, 18. Like every day. Loved that show. Let's see, what else was I saying? This. Who knows? They got the rights back from Machinima. They changed it all to try and keep on trend and took a wrong direction. Should have kept it simple and short. Wasn't that all absorbed by Rooster Teeth? I thought it was from the start Rooster Teeth. Pretty Good Gaming was great too. Yeah, if I recall correctly, they tried. That was like 2017, right? Yeah, these guys. This is a throwback. Pretty Good Gaming. Last video was 2 years ago. The rise and fall of Pretty Good Gaming. I remember watching this way back when he first dropped it.
On a format that worked really well, which is just me and him wrote a script, and me and him were hosting it to the screen, a trending news topic, let's say. 2 goofy guys talking shit about Call of Duty to a screen. That seemed to hit really well with the audience. People started subscribing, started watching. By December, if you look at this chart here, this was Gareth Evans Gaming, flatline. When Mike joined here, by December 2016, we were making 2.6 million views, and it was unbelievable feeling. The fact that we were just been experimenting, talking shit to a camera, and it worked out. We made some money that month. So for the first time, we were successful on the gaming channel, and that went on for 6 months. Decided, well, this is working out pretty well. Let's take on a couple of interns. Jake and Liam came aboard, and then Liam was the writer, Jake was an editor stroke another host in the end, and a bit of a writer too, and then Liam kind of dabbled. either way, it worked really well. And for 6 months at the end of 2017, we were raking in the views, 8.6 million views, sorry, 6.8 million views in June 2017. And for the 6 months, we were flying high. You know, the experiment worked. I took on another guy called Mike Abbott who did the...
When was the adpocalypse? Does anyone remember when that was? Was it 2017, 18? Because I'll tell you right now, based on these numbers, I would have expected them on those views, pre-YouTube Shorts and everything. If you got this many views on regular videos now, I would guess you should be making, if your stuff is set up right, you should be making probably between 25 and 35,000. Granted, this is pounds, so maybe it's a little less dramatic than it seems for me. That's probably more like $15,000 or $14,000. But yeah, which one? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. They were flying really high. I think they took on too many employees and interns and stuff, and then that got them in trouble.
Editing helped us behind the scenes. We started streaming and things like that. At this time, I was also hiring a girl called Emmy, who was working with me on the music channel. So I had 5 staff, and life was good come November, December 2017. Something happened 2 weeks into December in 2017. YouTube flicked the switch. We made 7.1 million views in November.
Look how quickly it changed.
Halfway through, we flicked the switch and we were going from 50 to 100,000 views per video to 15 to 20,000 views per video. And by January, the revenue we generated off the gaming videos dipped by 40% on the previous month. You can see December and January. And that was a big shock. Things started to get stressful for me because I had to dip into my own pocket to pay wages then, because I had this 5 staff. We were relying on the revenue we were getting for the previous 6 months. Why wouldn't you? You're getting a pretty steady income. Someone flicks a switch on the back end of YouTube, 40% revenue cut, just like that, out of nowhere.
And I think, you know, this is one thing that is not confirmed, to be clear, but I'm telling you this as a YouTuber that relies on this for his living. What happened during the adpocalypse was that all the ads dried up and only a very few select sectors on YouTube were still generating a good amount of money. And what's YouTube's goal? YouTube's goal as a company is to make money. And so if they have a whole category of video that's not performing and not generating revenue, they're not going to push it as hard. So all of like the non-mainstream gaming YouTubers were taking hits around this time, not just in terms of revenue, but because the algorithm started to deprioritize gaming content in favor of other content from creators like maybe a Shane Dawson. You know, a really advertiser-friendly creator. Or like a Jeffree Star type, a James Charles. Those guys, like makeup brands, were still putting their ads on YouTube. They didn't care. But gaming companies weren't really putting stuff on. So they pivoted off and the algorithm shifted and changed. And for somebody like me, I was making some videos at the time, but I was like in college. I didn't rely on all of this. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal. I remember in 2017, during the same period of time, like the summer of 2017, I remember having a couple of videos do pretty well. You know, some video essays and things I made at the time. But it was not really a big deal. Like, and I also, like, I just started making gaming videos. I had no idea what I was doing generally. But as time went on, like, a lot of us suffered. And the difficulty for them is that they had scaled up and then they got hit by all of this around the same time. And they couldn't pay for the workers and the editors and writers to keep up with the level of content. And also the industry just shifted. This is right around the same time that The Know started having their stuff suffer as well. You know, all of their views started to suffer after that.
Killer, absolute killer. Come June, July, having dipped into my pocket to pay the staff for so long, I had to make a decision. Midway through August, you can see there July was 25% the revenue which we were relying on in the last quarter, let's say the last 3 months of 2017 on average. It was 25% down in July. Come August, made the decision, I can't afford it anymore. Personally, it was taking its toll on my personal situation, more my wife. It just wasn't doable. So I made the decision we had to lay off Mike Abbott, Jake, and Liam. The hardest decision I've had to make, and probably one of my worst days of my life, having to let those guys go. Guys I'd spent a lot of time with over the past year and a half, gotten pretty close to, had a decent relationship with, and then you have to do that to them. Killer, absolute killer.
Yeah, that's miserable. Yeah, your channel entirely got lost in the algorithm for me. I forgot you even existed until YouTube put this video on my homepage. Trust me, I feel your pain when I read the same kind of comments on my channel. YouTube and content creation is tough in general. Generally, the older a channel is, the more they have the issue of just fading out of people's sub boxes. Naturally, your content will change over the years and people will lose interest. That's fine. But it does really suck how it works against you in the new YouTube era of recommended videos. Yeah, well, the other thing is, and I'm saying this as anybody, you know, if anybody out there wants to be a YouTuber and all this, if you find quick success, if you find a spike in viewership and subs and stuff, that's awesome. But be ready for that to drop by 95%. Like, you have to, any bright, like, shining light can burn out very quickly. And that's happened with a lot of other guys. One of the other guys that we used to look at all the time, that I don't think makes any gaming content anymore. Yeah, I think he stopped making videos. Is this the new rebranded channel? If I hear his voice, I'll know.
At one point, fans held Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and
I don't know. It won't load. Damn it. Maybe this is just the rebranded version. I'm not sure. But this guy, Clean Prince Gaming, he did all sorts. Yeah, it is. It must be Button Mash. He rebranded it. So he made all these video essays back in the day, and you probably recognize the thumbnails if you're watching YouTube around the time, because it was all X game didn't just die, it was murdered. And he did that brand of content. He did just like your standard video essay, and he would just pump them out super quick. It was his competitive advantage was that he was able to just pump out the same videos on various different games 15 times, and it would just, you know, he'd grind it out. And it worked for a little while in 2017, but I think what happened is eventually everybody burned out on the content, and so he left. He started doing videos on movies and TV shows, and he found a lot of success there. And it looks like he tried to come back and rebrand his channel to Button Mash, but that doesn't look like it turned out too great. You know, 8,000, 7,000, 75, okay, 17, 12,000. That on a 600,000+ sub channel is just not anywhere near enough views. Like, you need, there's a term called sub participation you want to look at as a YouTuber. And usually you need like 10% is considered on the edge, pretty well beneath what you want. 20% is really healthy for a channel. So if you're a 1 million sub channel, you shouldn't expect 1 million views on every video. If you get that, amazing, that's great. But usually if you have 1 million subs, 200,000 per video is a really healthy number to be at as a channel. 10% is getting a little bit on the low side, but that's certainly sustainable and workable. But to have 600,000 views or 600,000 subs and be stuck at like 15,000 views for videos is not where you want to be. So it seems like he just kind of moved on and maybe does occasional streams and stuff. I don't know. Maybe he sold the channel to somebody. That's a thing that can happen, where channels will, with tons of subs, will sell to somebody and they'll get access to the distribution network and the algorithm for the channel, and then they'll do that. I don't know. Yeah. Downward thrust got better. Now he does it for fun, has a day job, etc. Well, and that's great. That's great. I think it was downward thrust, Clean Prince Gaming, and myself. We all did video essays around the same time. I found success with my Just Wow series, where I would do like, you know, The Witcher 3 did something incredible, or AC Odyssey did something incredible. And like the big Just Wow text back when Photoshop supported 3D text. So like 1.5 million subs, you know, like I found a lot of success with those videos 5 years ago, probably right around the same time. And they were short videos, but people clicked on them. They watched the whole thing and it was great. Part of what also happened around this time is YouTube shifted and they started really prioritizing mid-roll ads. And with that came a prioritization of total watch time instead of like percentage watch time. Back in 2017, it was about how much of this video did you watch? Did you watch 80%? Did you watch 100%? If you watch the full video, YouTube recommended your video more. Nowadays, it's based on the total number of minutes watched. So if I post, you know, I tried AC Odyssey again. If I post that and it's a 34-minute video and they watch the whole thing, that's great. I got 34 minutes of watch time out of that. But if I could get like 49 minutes of watch time, that's even better, you know? So you have a vested interest in trying to pump out content that people enjoy enough to watch in its entirety and that they watch all the way through, you know, a higher total length. Yeah. Downey is such an incredible person. He turned his entire channel around. He even went on EFAP. I don't know what EFAP is. And told his life story and how he got into cooking and gaming and YouTube and stuff. That's awesome. And I wish all those guys the best. And the guy that ran Clean Prince Gaming, I want to say his name was Tyler. It's been years, but I talked to him back in the day because he wanted to try and use my Just Wow text in one of his thumbnails. And he didn't want to like step on my toes by doing that without my go ahead. So I was like, sure, you can use the text. And then the thumbnail ended up being like a pretty much 1-to-1 copy of one of mine. And he ended up changing the thumbnail afterwards because he was getting some pushback because people thought it was a video of mine, and so it was a whole thing. But I talked to the guy. I have nothing against him. He just was a guy that came in, did a very particular type of content, grinded out 600,000 subs with it, made a ton of money doing it, and then pivoted off and started doing other videos in another side of things. The big thing for Clean Prince Gaming though is that he was caught like many times. He'd talk about games and how terrible they were and heavily imply that he had played them, but people would look it up and he was using other people's gameplay footage. And then he'd crop out the watermark from the person that posted the gameplay footage. And people were like, so you didn't even play like Destiny or Anthem. I think Anthem was the big one. He didn't even play Anthem, but he made a whole video about how terrible the game was and how these different mechanics didn't work right. It was just like a collection of different statements that a bunch of other people had made, but he didn't even like really record his own footage. So people like, so did you not even play the game yourself? Like, it lost him a lot of credibility, I think. But I wish him all the best. YouTube has a way of kind of balancing itself out. You know, people eventually that are building all of their stuff around a single gimmick, usually they'll kind of drift off. So the industry has a way of balancing itself. If I remember correctly, it was Destiny because the Destiny community was mad. Yeah, it might have been. That sounds right. Just watched your Death Stranding critique, and now I'm on The Last of Us Part 2 since I just finished the game, boosting those watch time numbers for you. Yeah. Well, those are big videos too. Those are big videos. I still remember Last of Us 2 critique. Ba, 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 ba. I still remember how I opened this. I also tried and experimented with a new audio filter that normalized and equalized the audio. It was a mistake. I don't know. If I went and rebalanced the audio again, I wouldn't have done it the same way. But just look how I opened this video. Just right in the feels.
If I ever were to lose you, I'd surely lose myself. Everything I have found here, I'm not found by myself. Try and sometimes you'll succeed to make this man of me. All my stolen missing parts, I've no need for any more.
Just right for the feels. Oh, thank you, my babe. Bursting with flavor. What is it? It's a bomb. No, it's oh my God. My wife loves me. I am an addict for a very particular type of carb. And she got me a sack of it. Panera Bread Asiago bagels. There is nothing approaching to how delicious these are. Like, unbelievably good. Other Asiago bagels don't have anything on these. These things are amazing. You toast it, little bit of salted butter. I'll eat 3 of them like it's nothing. Like it's nothing. Easy peasy. I'm getting all the emails at the same time. Thank you, my babe. This is wonderful. Thank you. Do you want to? No, I will eat all of them if you leave them down here. I have no self-control. You have to eat them all on stream. Cody's like, Luke's bro got the dough. Yeah, dude. Thanks, babe. Yeah. Dude, those Asiago bagels are so freaking good. I go in there to try to buy them and they're always sold out. Always. So yeah, I miss doing these big critiques because this critique, it's also like a commentary, which was part of like when I really enjoy a game, I kind of work myself through the game by making these videos where I can just go through the whole thing and kind of work through all of it. And I ate it up. I love it. Reflects a better gameplay experience. Luke said the thing. Because it just ends up with the player refusing to use multiple mechanics because they're scared that if they do use them, they're going to run out of ammo and be unable to use them later on. But it's funny. And if enough time passes, you look back at some of these videos and I'm always like, oh, I would have done that differently. I would have done this differently. It's a lot of the player. It's not that easy, actually, to stay intrigued and involved in everything that's going on, especially because it's so emotionally taxing. But don't worry, we're going to get into all of that a little bit later. As you go through this sequence, yeah, I ate it up. Ate it up. I miss doing these. I miss doing these. What's the dislike ratio on this? I don't have the plugin. I don't know, but I think it's good. I have no reason to think it's bad. Yeah, old Mike, young Luke or old Mike. Part of it, I think it's both. There was a period where I had a different technique of speaking into the mic and it just didn't work as well. It was also an old mic. I'm guessing well, actually only 3 years ago, 2020. I think it was the same thing. I think it was the same thing. Real quick, I think this is the FedEx guy. I gotta pick this up. So give me just a second. I'll be right back. Or I'll put it on BRB screen. Just a second. No, I'm back. I'm back. That was a very, very Indian gentleman telling me that he worked for the Federal Bureau of Investigation and that he needed me to send him Bitcoin. So it's like, I don't X to doubt. X to doubt right now. X to doubt. I haven't got one of those in years, like an actual like scam call. Like, wow, that was pretty cool. Yeah, that was just a ploy for me to sneak a bagel really quick while I took it. Oh, dude, can you imagine if I was just like straight up an addict? That would be funny. So anyway, with all of this, I mentioned this in last week's stream because I was an idiot and spoiled it accidentally. My plan was to surprise everybody with a Starfield critique out of nowhere, like early July, and launch like a Patreon and everything around that time to kickstart making these again. Because back in the day, like when I was making these videos much more consistently, it was like my bread and butter. It was the main videos I'd pump out, and it was just me. Like, and I might be paying my brother Jacob to help me edit them, but it was not a crazy big undertaking. I just wouldn't upload any videos for like a few weeks, or upload them very inconsistently while I was trying to do it. Now, like, this is my full-time job. Also back then in 2020, this is when I was still working in real estate. So like, I didn't need the YouTube channel to be performing optimally to make these videos. But now it is literally my job. And I have 2 people who work full-time for me. So I have to reach certain like revenue standards and barriers in order to just pay the bills. And the added time it takes to make like a multi-hour critique is a lot. So I think we're going to launch it alongside a Patreon, and the Patreon will let people vote on the next critiques and stuff. So you guys will actually get to vote on it. And then we also, now we have the capacity where I can do behind the scenes stuff, or, you know, if you're at a certain threshold, I don't know if it'll be $5 or $10 a month, whatever, but you'll get an exclusive video each month. So if like maybe one week I take and do a vlog of taking you guys to like a local game store near where I live, or maybe one night when I take the camera and I show you the D&D campaign that I'm running and the story. I walk you through the story I made for that D&D campaign, and can kind of give you the background for that. So like there could be a lot of really interesting things that we could do that we didn't do before, that I think would be pretty exciting. Not to mention that you guys would also like get your names in the credits, and it would allow us to make these huge critique videos again, but with our current production value. And I think that could be awesome. And ultimately, like the stretch goal, and I mentioned this the other day, the stretch goal that I would love to reach would be if we could like straight up go and mix documentarian style content with these critiques. So we do a critique like this, but at the same time we're going through the entire game, we can be cutting away to times when maybe I did interviews with some devs, or if I was able to somehow convince them to let me go to the studio, I could go to the studio and interview people there and actually see how they put the game together and stuff like that. There's all sorts of really cool things we could do. Like, 'cause can you imagine if like we actually were able to do that? It'd be so cool. It'd be so cool. It'd be amazing. So we'll see when that launches. I'm guessing it'll be in the next week or two we'll launch it, and then the Starfield critique should be out in early July, probably launching around the time I leave for that vacation trip in like early July for 4th of July. So we'll get that put out and it will be awesome. And then you guys will vote on the next game, whether that's Baldur's Gate 3 and we launch that, or if you guys are like, actually maybe do like, what's another game that will be out around that time? Maybe do Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 next, or do like maybe revisit The Witcher 3, whatever. Like we'd put those up, you guys would vote on it, and whatever you vote on is what we do. And that's just how it is, nice and simple. Infinity Princess, of course. You guys better vote for that one. Yeah, I'll be mad. Imagine if I posted the poll and it's like option 1, Infinity Princess. Option 2, Infinity Princess. Oh, Nikki, Infinity Nikki. And then option 3, Infinity Nikki. Option 4, Nikki Infinity. Option 5, like Pong or something. We could have fun with that. Ninja Rain or Ninja Orange 13. Thank you for the 5. Why is there so much hate towards Neil Druckmann? I really dislike the story of The Last of Us Part 2, but I think he still is an important guy. A lot of it is tied up in, based on my understanding of some of the people that are most outspoken against him. It seems like there is generally a lot of hate towards him because he speaks very openly about wanting to have like political messaging in his games. So what that means is like he wants to use his games as a platform for social justice, his platform for his games as a platform for pushing like diversity in narratives and stuff like that. And for a lot of people that is politically antithetical to everything that they hold dear. So that makes him a target. Furthermore, the Joel thing that happened in The Last of Us Part 2, that's going to rile some people up. He had a trans character as part of the main cast of The Last of Us Part 2 that upsets a lot of people. So there's a lot of things that kind of all landed in the same month period of time that made him a real target for everybody. And that's part of it. Why he gets a lot of hate. But the thing is, like, the majority of gamers who are playing Naughty Dog games, they don't even necessarily really know who Neil Druckmann is. They just know they like The Last of Us, or they know that they like Naughty Dog stuff. Like they just know that they like those games, and so they don't really care that much. It's why, again, like, I just would not put much weight on mass downvote campaigns, or if a community on Reddit is upset over something. Like, the internet is a very big place, and it's not usually clearly indicative of how a game is performing. Like, even something like the example I gave was Call of Duty or Warzone. If I can pull up Warzone, Call of Duty Warzone. Can I find it? Maybe not. Call of Duty Warzone. Here it is. So they don't have full player numbers, but like if you look up Steam reviews on Call of Duty Warzone, like mass downvoted, only 32% of votes are positive. Horribly reviewed. Still the biggest game in the world. And this is just Steam, to be fair. But like, still, if you looked at this, you'd think the game is horribly received, right? You think this would be a flop. No, it's the biggest game in the world. Overwatch 2, similarly, horrible votes, downvotes. Still very successful. They're making good money on that game reportedly. And then on the flip side, like, you can find other games where there's not really a mass downvoting, 70% generally positive. It's a totally dead game. You know, so like to dislike ratios, all of that stuff, you can't really take that and then conclude much of anything. You know, it's not a great indicator of anything. So for Neil Druckmann, there's certainly a lot of people that hate him and consider him to be more of an activist than somebody concerned with making the best games possible. But I don't know how you can argue that he's not one of the most influential game developers right now. Like, when he announces his next game from Naughty Dog, like, it's going to be one of the biggest things announced at any show that year. It's going to be a big deal. That upsets people, but that's just how it is. Naughty Dog is a behemoth, you know. Apex Legend constantly gets trashed, yet it still has consistent player count. Yeah. Halo Infinite. Oh, all day, every day. X allows for not safe for work content, it seems. I thought they already did, because I get those bots spamming me all the time that have like full nudity in the pictures and stuff. So I thought they already allowed for it, but maybe that stuff wasn't supposed to be on the platform before. Yeah, I don't know. Shout out Fantasy Files Podcast. One of my favorite YouTubers, Luke Stevens, is finally making a Patreon with exclusive content, and I'm so excited. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, brother. It's going to be good. And I mean, honestly, if I'm guessing once I get a taste of making those little vlogs and stuff, I'm going to eat it up and want to do more and more and more. So maybe we'll up it to like, at certain thresholds, maybe we'll up it to like 2 exclusive videos a month or something. I don't know. That could be awesome. Could be freaking sweet. Freaking sweet, dude. But okay. Is Skull and Bones doing good? It's very difficult to say. Penguin Z 2008, like, very difficult to say because Ubisoft is like cherry picking metrics. They say we had record player engagement and record daily play time during the period of time they were looking at. So they were like, we broke a record where the average play time of the number of players that went into Skull and Bones in the first week, the average play time was 4 hours in a day, or 8 hours in I think it was 4 hours for the day. That was the average. And that's the highest average play time in the launch week of any game they've ever released. And it's like, okay, but like, did it sell well? How many of those were playing the free trial, the free 8-hour trial that they did? Like, not a lot of useful information. They say it's doing okay, basically. Time will tell if that's actually the case. There is a community around it. There are YouTubers that only do Skull and Bones content. There are some people that are playing it and having a great time. They have a decent seasonal offering, honestly. It seems like they actually have a better long-term support plan than Suicide Squad certainly does, but there's no way it's going to be profitable, but it they seem to be generally okay with how it's performing. But again, it's really, really hard to gauge what that actually means. My guess is their expectations were very low and it's about there, but the people that are playing it are having a good time. And I think that's the metric they're using. How long until Rocksteady bails on Suicide Squad? I guess we can do this as the final segment. Let me see if I can find the article about it. Weekly updates. So, so here's the article I was looking for. Okay. So, you know how some games will do like weekly dev updates to give you an idea of what's going on? Like, oh, this is what's coming this week. In 3 weeks, we're going to launch season 2 or whatever. And then that's going to bring this content. They give you little sneak peeks, maybe a screenshot or two. Maybe they show you a skin that's coming to the shop or something like that. There's usually stuff like that going on. Rocksteady just announced that they're no longer going to be doing weekly developer updates, which is bad. That's bad. They say instead they'll release them when they have big news to share about future content. But that's all there is to it. The developer hopes that this will make the release of each new update an exciting event while keeping you all up to date on all the happenings with the game. While some believe this makes sense, why offer a developer update with no updates or significant news, for example? Others think this is the first step towards declining support. Concurrent player numbers on Steam peaked at 519 in the last 24 hours per SteamDB. The last time it crossed 1,000 was during the season of the Joker's launch. It plummeted right back down afterwards as fans complained about the lack of content, recycled missions, or strongholds, a hefty grind to unlock the Joker, also available for real money, and so on. Warner Brothers Discovery said that it had fallen short of expectations, and later the parent company confirmed it contributed to a $200 million impact on revenue. While its 5th season could be the last based on rumors, there's no doubt whether the looter shooter can even reach that point. As always, stay tuned for further updates. I'm telling you now, the next playable character could straight up just be the nail in the coffin. Like straight up, I'm telling you right here and now, it's, if you thought the Joker was mocked, oh my God, just you wait. Just you wait. Yeah, you looked it up, Timeless Soul. You know what I'm talking about. It's one of those things, you see the character and you're like, who thought that that was a good idea? Anybody who thought that that was going to be received well, honestly, I would question all of their judgment, all of it, every drop, because you ask literally anybody in the broader gaming community, hey, are players going to like this character? And you would be told universally, no. No, they won't. They're going to mock you into oblivion. Like, the Joker was just kind of cringy, but it was whatever. This one seems to be reaffirming the idea that they designed characters around, like, activist messaging and stuff, and that is a great way to nuke your game's chances of being successful. Like, I thought that the underage Poison Ivy thing that Kieran's mentioning, I thought the people getting upset about that was kind of weird. They were upset that like Ivy was reformed and now was no longer hot and was a child, and I was like, okay, like it's a little weird, but like let's chill out. You know, I didn't think it was fair to maybe get totally freaked out over that. So I thought that was silly, but the Joker came out and we're like, okay, I know you wanted to do something different. And they talked in the dev interviews about him like having insecurity and trying to find himself in this new world. None of which was relevant when the Joker actually came out. There was like a 2-minute cutscene where there was barely any dialogue and that was it. Like no other explanation or exploration of the character, nothing. And now we're getting a look at the next character and it's like, okay, so like this, if you guys were trying, I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say. Like, it's shockingly bad. Shockingly bad. Yeah, Joker's insecure. Yeah, go listen to those dev interviews they did when they were trying to hype up season 1. I pray to the gods of gaming that we get interviews like that for season 2, because dear God Almighty, it's gonna be hilarious. Like, it's gonna be crazy, and I am excited. I am so ready for it. I'll tell you what, right here, right now, it's gonna be outrageous. Trying to see them defend that and the squirming that's gonna take place, because like Joker, you can sort of be like, oh, it's a unique spin. This, it's just like, yeah, we know you wanted this, but we have this thing that is objectively worse, and we're going to give that to you. And if you don't like it, we're going to call you a bigot. It's like, okay, got it. Let's see how that goes for you. Wow. Yeah. Really bad. Oh man, where's the leak? Just Google Suicide Squad season 2 leaked character and you will find it. What's next? Batman afraid to punch bags. Yeah, we wanted to make our own Batman, so we made a Batman that has a compulsive fear of bats to the point where he pees himself, and we actually developed a system where the Dark Knight will actually pee and urinate on himself, and the Dark Knight will actually grow darker as the urine spreads over his body, because we wanted to ground it in that fear of bats. Yeah, he also is a furry. It's just, wait, what? This is getting weird. This is getting bad. I don't think this is a good idea, but okay. But like that's seriously how this goes. Like, and then they act shocked when the reception's poor. And it's like, I have zero sympathy for you. If you thought that this was going to be well received, like at least if they were braced, like Redfall, I can kind of appreciate that the devs knew it wasn't working and they wanted Microsoft to cancel it. That's the reporting by Jason Schreier. They wanted to basically have Microsoft come in and cancel it. But with this, it's like they really thought, by every metric I've heard, the people that were in charge of these character designs and stuff really thought they were badass and people would like eat it up, which is horrifying. Like, that's horrifying that anybody thought that. You have to be pretty disconnected from the industry to believe that. And those are the people making these games. But it's also why, like, people have asked me, what should we do about all of this? What should we do about activist involvement in the games industry? What should we do about all these things? Honestly, I don't think we really need to do much because these things have a way of kind of filtering themselves out. My problem with activism in games is that they tend to make games worse. But the nice and convenient thing about bad games is that they don't tend to make money. And when things don't make money, big companies don't want to do them. So if they start looking at all this stuff and like, wow, everything we tried with Suicide Squad failed and lost us hundreds of millions of dollars, literally hundreds of millions of dollars. So maybe we should just do the opposite of whatever that was. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Usually it takes a while. People kind of mix it up. They're like, oh, well, this game was horrible and released in 2020. And then in 2021, that same studio released another game that didn't learn from those previous lessons. It's like, yeah, but that was in development for 5-6 years. Wait another 5-6 years and see what those games look like and how they've changed. Because usually they will adapt and shift. But like with all this stuff, anybody who worked on Suicide Squad, their resume is pretty screwed now. Like it's kind of a taint on the resume. Unless you worked on like the animation team, unless you worked on cinematics and stuff, saying you worked on Suicide Squad is probably not a great selling point to a new job, you know? Probably not something you want to bring up. BlackRock still exists. A lot of these companies can't stop or can't be sucking on the teat. Yes, but ultimately BlackRock, like any other hedge fund or money manager, they still are investing in companies based on certain revenue or profitability targets. Somebody like Warner Brothers Discovery, I mean, I can just show you the graph. It doesn't matter how much they're appealing to certain metrics or certain political things that some activist investors might care about. Investing in it is a bad idea. They've just been hemorrhaging money as time goes by. And so it doesn't matter. You know, that like this to me reveals that the leadership at Warner Brothers Discovery is the problem. It's not necessarily like a lot of outside forces, because it's just, I mean, there are outside forces. You know, it's complicated. There's a lot of reasons why Warner Brothers Discovery is dying. But that's a whole other issue. That's a whole other thing. But with all this, my feeling is generally that these things tend to sort of filter themselves out. Games that are built on shaky premises and that are just meant to check off certain boxes or are meant to satisfy shareholders but don't care about the gamers' impressions of them. Again, they have a way of kind of filtering themselves out and revealing it because it's transparent. You can see it from a mile away when something's been built, not because it's the best game, but because it's appealing to investors or it's appealing to some sort of activist group. Like, you can spot it a mile away, and players hate that stink. They cannot stand it. And so those games flop and die. Because the one thing that's worse in the games industry than being a bad game is being an uncool game. And the worst thing you could possibly have for your live service game is if it is uncool. And if you're going to get teased for playing it. And that's where we're at right now. I mean, you see somebody come into chat and they're like, oh, I actually play a lot of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. And they get bullied. I mean, people are like, what's wrong with you? What kind of car accident were you in that made you enjoy that game? You know, people start, you know, teasing you about it. And that's because gaming is ultimately a social thing. And so I think if you have a game that's bad and uncool, it stands zero chance at all. That's why, like, even if this game is Concord, even if it is a good game, even if it is mechanically sound and runs great and is really well balanced, even if all that stuff is true, it won't change the fact that it is uncool. And so there's going to be a lot of people that just don't bother playing it because they just don't want to do that. They'll stick to the game they currently play. And that's that. Because again, every time there's a barrier to entry to getting into a game, that's one more reason for people not to play it. And when you're in such a crazy competitive industry, you cannot stand to have any reason for somebody not to play your game. Yeah, Brandon Jens, Suicide Squad isn't bad because of activism. Lol, that's just lazy. Well, it's kind of why I mentioned, like, saying you shouldn't play Suicide Squad because of Sweet Baby Inc. involvement or something. I'm like, if you care about all that, that's totally fine. Like, it's valid to support things for various reasons that are specific to you, and also valid to not support things for equal and opposite reasons, right? But with Suicide Squad, it is just a bad game. Like, even in a vacuum, without any outside involvement from any activist groups, whatever, it's just a bad game. Like, and you can point to those bad game mechanics and how bad the content is and all that. You can point to that, and that explains why you shouldn't play it without having to go to the lengths of going to, like, Sweet Baby Inc. and stuff. Which, how involved they were, I literally don't know, just because I wasn't on the dev team. But, like, the game was just bad. Most people aren't hardcore gamers. Most people just buy FIFA every year, which is fine. Yeah, when you're talking about the majority of gamers out there, most of them are more casual gamers. You're right. That's why they pump this stuff out, because they're hoping that enough people will want to play this because they just see that it's a new live service kind of Overwatch clone. And they're hoping that maybe it looks unique enough that they try it and enjoy, like, end up enjoying it, and it becomes their new mainstay. And maybe that happens. Maybe. I don't think anybody was expecting, like, Helldivers to pop off the way it did, but at least Helldivers, you look at it and it like, you can look at it and you're like, okay, I can see why people would love this. Maybe it's not for me. Maybe it's not my cup of tea, you know, but I can see why people would like it. With this, it's like, it just seems like a worse Overwatch. And at that point, like, what are you going to do? Is it even the activism? Concord trailer sucks because the trailer didn't focus on PvP shooters in a shooter. I think with Concord, it's a complicated thing. There's multiple layers of it. For one, the cinematic trailer that they showed at the top is heavily implying this is going to be like a Guardians of the Galaxy style narrative game. And then it has nothing to do with a 5v5 shooter. Like, it just doesn't. Hero shooter. And then we got the actual gameplay, and it just looks really, really generic. And then we go and we see other things like the character selectors, and they'll show, like, the robot, and they see that, like, the robot has his pronouns listed. And it's like, guys, he's a robot. I get it with, like, other characters that have pronouns, but robots do not have pronouns because they are robots. Maybe that makes me a robot bigot. I don't know. But once you see that, it's like, okay, it's hard to separate now the priorities, you know? Like, I don't care about pronouns. Like, I really just don't give a crap either which way. But it's like, it's a freaking robot. You know, like, I don't have pronouns listed for my microwave. Like, I don't, it's a robot. It's a microwave. It's just not a thing. But you can't make this stuff up. It's crazy. It's crazy. Anyway, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. we'll follow it. We'll see how it goes as time goes by. But with all this, it looks like the end is beginning, or this is the beginning of the end. They are not going to be updating with smaller updates now. It's just reaffirming the idea that they're maybe starting to shift towards more of a skeleton crew, and they're not going to pour as many resources into maintaining community updates and social media posts and stuff. And instead, they're going to be focusing on just getting other stuff out the door and figuring out what the hell comes next, because this doesn't work. You know, it's like, what are we doing? Oh, yeah. When we have big news to share about future content. I don't even know if they've updated. Have they said when season 2 is dropping? Suicide Squad season 2. I don't see anyone. Are they speculating about it? I don't know. Have they said maybe June? Maybe. I don't know. I don't see it. I guess they just haven't communicated anything. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. We have no idea. And the game's on life support. Luke will find a new cringe game. I have a feeling it might be Concord. The difference is Concord's coming from like a new team, so nobody's really expecting much. With Rocksteady, part of what made that game so heartbreaking is that we knew what the studio at one time was capable of. Like at one time, people really, really, like they were doing great, but I don't know. We cared. That was our first mistake. But anyway. So with all of this said, I need to go and eat a bagel that my wife brought me because it's great. I have my Factor for breakfast, but I need some actual food. So I'm going to go do that, check on the boys and everybody. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Are you opening the box on stream tomorrow? It mainly just depends on time because I'm leaving for SGF later in the week. I told Nikki that I would take the boys tomorrow and she could just sleep in. She could go get her hair done, whatever she wants to do. So it kind of just depends. Worst case scenario, I'll be back Wednesday or tomorrow night and we'll do it. But yeah, probably not the regular stream time that we would start. But Wednesday we'll be back for one final stream before SGF. And then I'll be leaving sometime on Thursday for Summer Game Fest. And lots of good stuff will happen over this weekend. It's going to be pretty good, I will just say. Oh, wait. Nolan, I'm sorry. I don't know. Did it play the sound? Am I just like totally in a bubble? I could have sworn I didn't hear the sound. Maybe it did play. Maybe I'm just high. Let's see. The Neil Druckmann one we saw. Miles, thank you for the 2. Death of Suicide Squad Begins. You try X Defiant? Yeah, I did try X Defiant. It's good. In my personal experience, it's super sweaty. Like the people that are in there are super sweaty, and I don't know, it hasn't clicked for me yet. It feels tight, it feels good to play, but it's definitely not a fun, relaxing game for me. Like for me it's pretty intense. Maybe I'm just in the wrong lobbies or something, but yeah, for me every match I've ever played in X Defiant has been just flooded with sweats. It's like, oh god. Will you put any content from SGF? Yeah, we're pretty much going to be filming SGF and then going back to our hotel room, and we're going to be like filming videos, editing videos all night. Like, we're going to be grinding pretty heavily. So yeah, we'll have a lot of stuff out. And then Nolan Dixon, thank you for the 5, my friend. Thank you. If Bungie's marathon fails, I just hope Sony forces them to make Destiny 3 instead of turning them into some sort of support studio. I mean, I would also kind of hope for that, but the danger is that if Destiny 2 isn't working, what would make them think Destiny 3 could be more successful? Like, Destiny 2 has not been the cash cow that Sony bought it for. It's been wildly underperforming financial targets. They have a lot of players, no doubt, but they have failed to generate enough revenue to justify how much money they're spending on that game. So my fear would be Sony would just be like, well, we kind of wasted $3 billion, so we'll just gut it and move on. Like, that would suck, but they bought it for Destiny and for Marathon. Marathon, hearing that it's a hero-based extraction shooter, that gets me very, very skeptical of how it will perform, because I don't think anybody from Destiny, like those players, I think very few of them will be moving over, because that's not at all what Destiny is. And I don't think you get a lot of the more casual hero shooter guys like from Overwatch or Concord. I don't think you get a lot of them moving over to that game. So I don't know how that does. Maybe really well, maybe really poorly. It's up in the air, unfortunately. Instead of being a slam dunk, it's just, I don't, it's just the whole thing. But we'll see. Hearing that they're shifting this late in development to a hero-based like extraction shooter, like, that's ballsy, guys. We'll see if it works out, but like, they cannot afford for this to fail. Literally, if it fails and doesn't knock it out of the park in terms of revenue, player numbers can be high, but if they're not making money, it doesn't matter. They need players and money coming in. Otherwise, Sony takes them over completely. Management gets gutted, and it probably shifts into like a big support studio for the Guerrilla Horizon Monster Hunter game. That's probably what happens, which would suck, but that's just, if Destiny's not making money, why would they keep losing money by trying to make another one, Yeah. Anyway, Mia, that's funny. I showed a clip from one of Luke's videos about banishers in my class, forgetting momentarily about his ADHD tangents. Yeah. So it was like, oh, let me just show you this quick 30-second clip. And then half an hour later, it's like, why is he talking about Scientology and what? Like, what's going on? Yeah. Do you think more players might come to Destiny 3 because the new player experience is bad in 2 and the FOMO from 2 also at this point? Maybe, but even then, I'm sure some new people pop over, but then there's also going to be people who are like generally frustrated that they lose all the stuff from Destiny 2 and they have to start over. So maybe you lose some players there, but even then, like, how many more people do you gain? And are those new people spending money? That's the other question. They were also wasting much money on clubs. Yeah. And it's just, I don't know. They're fighting an uphill battle. Bungie is right to be nervous, I think, because it's going to be, I don't know, it's going to be tough to pull that off. But I wish them the best. We'll see. We'll see when they eventually reveal it. So, who knows? You were making an articulate point, and then you were like, does anyone like boats? I love boats. Yeah, that's me. Shout out to boats. Damn right. Oh, geez. How I do this for a living, I don't even know. But thank you, everybody, for hanging out with me. I greatly appreciate it. We'll be back Wednesday. Probably talk about boats a little. And we'll go from there. Thank you, everybody, for the crazy super chats and support. Thank you for the subs over on Twitch. Everything. You guys are amazing. I love you all desperately. And I'll see you in the next one, okay? Much love. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.